Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. I'll put on a little bit of rag time to kind of fill the time a little bit as I'm doing some final preparations. And the intro music should tell you right away that we're going to be focusing on one of those classic Japanese post-World War II machines that came out after that war came to a conclusion. The Japanese were using sewing machines and a number of other things to try to rebuild their economy, and we helped them out by giving them the designs and the patents so that they could produce sewing machines virtually identical, if not identical, to the ones that were already being produced in the U.S. by companies like the Singer Sewing Machine Company. So we're going to be looking at this machine that belongs to Joan. She's had it since about 1975. And then I'm going to be showing you a contrast of it with a Class 15 by Singer. And you're going to see how virtually identical they are, with a few little tweaks here and there that the Japanese introduced when they produced their machines over in that country. They didn't want to have a carbon copy, but they had a near carbon copy that they added a couple of tweaks to. So let me see if I can go back and put on a little bit of music for us as an interlude. Scrolling. Yeah, about another 2 minutes worth, I think. All right, here we go. Well, what you saw a glimpse of is I was kind of panning. I was panning between these two machines. The one that belongs to Joan, this Universal made in Japan, and this Singer 15-91 that was made in the U.S., is that they share almost every single characteristic in the design, from the stitch length controller to the placement of the bobbin winding assembly, the type of bobbin winding assembly, the entire structure in the body of the machine is a mirror image. They're identical. And that's exactly what we were aiming to do in helping the Japanese rebuild their economy. The Japanese did introduce some subtle changes, like the pressure foot pressure being adjustable, which I think is really a nice feature. You can kind of push that little release on the side here, and then it pops up so you can adjust that presser foot pressure within a range, depending on the type of sewing that you're doing. And so it's quick and easy. If you're sewing something real light, like this nylon material that I sewed on previously, and you don't want a real heavy touch from those feed dogs, you stay somewhere in this range right here, maybe a little bit heavier. As you move into some of the other materials like the leather, the canvas, the nylon, the vinyl, and some of those other heavier materials, you can then increase that presser foot pressure up and up and up and up all the way to a maximum. You don't have that option with that same level of ease on the US version. You've got to turn this in order to increase or decrease that presser foot pressure. So that's one of the innovations that the Japanese brought. One of the innovations that the Japanese brought to the table. They also made some subtle changes to the upper tension design. You can see the one that's on this class 15-91 compared to the one that's on Joan's machine. They're going to be real similar. Real similar. They also added a little bit more of an ornamental touch to the faceplate as well. The Japanese love colors and patterns and beauty. So you'll notice also that the filigree and decal pattern on this Japanese version has a little bit of a different look, but you've got the serial plate in the same location as this one. Just a little bit of a different look. Badge mark is different. The Singer badge mark compared to the Japanese badge mark that they displayed here. And this would have changed in later versions of class 15 models like this out of Japan, as there was a little bit more opposition to Japanese machines coming in, as they had an adverse impact on the economy because they were selling the same class 15 machines for about 30 to 40% less than the American equivalent. And so there got to be a little bit of a rub, a friction, a bitterness. And so they had to be a little bit more clever. And so they came up with different company names that replaced this deluxe made in Japan badge mark. And then they moved the made in Japan to the inside of the pillar or the back of the machine or the side of the pillar to make it a little bit more discreet so that it was less objectionable to the Americans in the marketplace in considering this as a machine option. So you got to be clever when you're marketing a product that might be a little bit controversial, right? But they always created beautiful, beautiful works of art, even though they started with a template that was a near mirror image of the American version. And they always tried to improve on it, even with the feed dog option to drop it, putting it right here on the bed of the machine, which is a lot more convenient than the feed dog drop on the class 15, where you have to go all the way to the bottom of the machine. I don't even know if I can show it to you, all the way to the bottom of the machine to try to drop the feed dogs on the American class 15. So the Japanese were always thinking, okay, this is a great American machine, but we're going to improve on it. We're going to change the design of the upper tension. We're going to add a little doodad to make the presser foot pressure a little bit easier to manage. We're going to change up a little bit of some of the design over here. We're going to add a feed dog drop that's a lot easier to access on the bed. So the Japanese are very, very smart innovators when it comes to design improvements. So, yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of fun checking this machine out today. It's certainly not the first class 15 that we've looked at on this channel. And it's not going to be the last, because I think the Japanese machines are fabulous. They truly are. The only downfall of some of the models that were really, really early in the production, the 1940s, is that they were using metal that was harvested from the Sea of Japan from sunken Navy vessels. And this model is not in that class. This would have been much later, mid-1950s. But those earliest ones, early 1940s, etc., would have had issues with rust, because that naval vessel metal that they harvested had been soaking for a long time in that salty water. And so those earliest class 15s and also the clone machines that came out of Japan have inherent rust issues. I've had some of them on my workbench in Okanto. I've had some of them, over the years that I've had to mitigate that rust issue. And, it is what it is. They used what they had. They had hundreds of tons, thousands of tons of metal that was just sitting on the bottom of the ocean off the coast. Why not use it? And so that's what they did. So I'm just going to get us set up here. So a little bit on the history of this machine. I hinted at it when I titled this Japanese junk, ? Why would I say Japanese junk? What's that about? Why would I say that? Well, because this machine that we're looking at right now, that is a spectacular beauty, was destined for the junk pile. This machine right here was destined for the junk pile, and Joan rescued it. Joan rescued this machine from the discarded junk that her neighboring landlord was pulling out of another apartment and was going to be taking it to the junk pile. And she approached that landlord right around 1975, and she said, I'd like to have that machine if you're just going to throw it out. And the rest is history, right? Joan got this machine. Shortly after that, she had it reconditioned. I'm not sure what that involved. I have no idea. I don't know where she took it to have it reconditioned. If she happens to be able to join the live chat and wants to share that detail, then that would be awesome. But she had it reconditioned. She saw value in what was earmarked to be junk. She saw value in this beauty out of Japan that was going to end up in a junk pile. And over the years, about 45 years, she has made hundreds of pot holders that were quilted, just beautiful quilted pot holders. She's made drapes, curtains. She's done mending with this machine. And her daughter, Katie, learned to sew on this sewing machine as well, along with her goddaughter, Danielle. So two of her family members fell in love with sewing, learned the art of sewing, the craft of sewing from this sewing machine that was earmarked for the junk pile. So talk about a success story of taking something that others saw as basically didn't have any value. It was worthless. It was going to be thrown into a pile with all the other junk at that junk pile. But because of the foresight and the knowledge and the wisdom that Joan had about, hey, that looks like a well-built sewing machine. It's heavier than a boat anchor. I'd like to have it. She collected it up and put it to use, and has put it to use over the last 45 years. And she and her husband, Steve, who's out in Arizona right now, saw enough value in bringing it back to life again by investing in this machine to come to the workshop here in the Twin Cities area. And I think Steve is watching as well out west there in Arizona. So hello to Steve as well. And thank you for supporting Joan and getting this machine to a point where it can come back online with even greater renewed power than original. And it's going to be able to accomplish the task that the family's looking for. And that task is going to be sewing some deck cushions for their daughter's newly acquired sailboat. That's what they're going to do with this machine now that it's gone through workshop magic, is they're going to be working on deck cushions for their daughter's newly acquired sailboat. And is a machine like this capable of doing that with marine vinyl? Well, we're going to find out today during this live stream, because I've got some marine quality vinyl that we're going to be sewing through, and a lot more than they're probably going to be sewing through making these deck cushions. So we're going to be able to put this machine to the test today and see how it does with marine vinyl and a wide variety of other materials as well. So that as Joan puts this back into commission, and maybe some other family members might use the machine as well. Maybe even Steve will try it out, right? Hint, hint. So this machine will be able to jump back into the game and maybe sew for another 45 years. How would that be? Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility with basic maintenance on this machine. So let me ask you this: if this machine is earmarked with the idea of sewing these deck cushions that will complement this sailboat that their daughter recently acquired, what kind of thread and what kind of needle would best be purposed for that type of sewing? If anyone knows, type it into the chat. What kind of thread should we be using ideally for something that's going to be sitting on the deck of a sailboat? What kind of needle should we be using to sew marine vinyl? Especially looking to sew marine vinyl, these 3 layers that I have prepared are going to be that thick. That's a lot thicker than what Joan is going to be sewing with these deck cushions. But I do that so that we can see that the machine is capable of even more than what the owner is planning on putting that machine to use to do, right? We always want to go above and beyond to raise the expectations as people look at maybe acquiring, or maybe they have a landlord that doesn't recognize the intrinsic value of this spectacular beauty of, I mean, it's just gorgeous. But it's also built like a tank. If they don't recognize the intrinsic value, maybe one of you out there will encounter a similar situation. Maybe it's not a landlord, maybe it's a thrift shop, or maybe it's somewhere else where they've got a machine like this that's post-World War II that was made by the Japanese that is absolutely a treasure to be had, but the other people that have it don't recognize that. Maybe they're just going to toss it out. Maybe you'll have a chance to rescue another Japanese beauty like this, like Joan did back in 1975, right? And then you'll be able to put it into use and gain an appreciation for a machine like this. Yeah, so we've got some great answers already. Teresa's chiming in from Thorpe, Wisconsin, and she's saying polyester thread, question mark, denim needle. Well, Teresa is on the right track. She's absolutely on the right track. Polyester thread is the proper thread to use when you're going to be sewing deck cushions, because it is resistant to salt water. If you happen to be near salt water, I don't think Joan's daughter will have a sailboat near salt water, but maybe she will. But anyone else that's looking to sew deck cushions, maybe on the coast of the United States or elsewhere where there's salt water, you want to use polyester thread because it's resistant to salt water, the breakdown that can have on regular thread. It's also resistant as well to UV properties that can degrade other types of thread. So polyester thread is the spot on choice that I would recommend that Joan and her family use to sew these deck cushions. And it's readily available. In fact, I've got to do a plug right now for our friends at Joan's all around the country, as they're doing a special President's sale. They're doing a special President's sale right now. And I got involved with it yesterday. Yesterday, I went to Joan's in, where is it? Edina, Minnesota. I was in Edina, Minnesota. That's a real city. It's a beautiful city. And I was out there at Joan's. And I went back to the thread section, and I was shameless. Because right now, and I think that Alex out in California mentioned that this was going on earlier, a couple months ago, out in California. But right now, because of President's Day weekend, blah, 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 Joan's is offering, I got to show you, this is crazy. I'll just show you what I got. All of this thread, our dual duty XP thread. You can also do the same thing with a Gutermann thread as well. And out at Joan's right now, anywhere in the country, as I understand it, anywhere in the country, if you go into your Joann's either today, Sunday, or Monday, which is President's Day, today, Sunday, or Monday, if you go into one of those locations and you go back to their thread section, I've been bragging about Joann's for a long time about, oh my gosh, if you go into Joann's, if you buy 3 spools of thread, guess what? You get 2 free. Well, they're doing it even bigger and better now. It's a blowout sale where if you buy 3 spools of thread, they're going to give you 3 spools of thread free. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. I might go back to Edina Joann's again today and get more thread, because how cool is it to walk in and buy 3 spools of thread, only pay for 3, but they throw 3 more in your bag for free. And again, it applies to the Coates and Clark. It applies to the Gutermann. It probably applies to other threads as well. Maybe the Sulky brand. I don't know. But I'm a dual duty XP guy, as most of you know. So I walked in there and I bought like $35 worth of thread. All of this thread you can see right here. And I walked out with $35 of free thread in the bag. I was actually tilted to the right. It was so heavy walking out of the store. It was crazy. So take time today, Sunday, or Monday. I wouldn't wait till Monday because it's probably going to all be gone. I would go in today. I might go back today and get more thread, because how can you beat the deal of buying 3 and getting 3 free? Whether you like the Gutermann brand or whether you like the Coates and Clark brand, they've got a blowout sale going. It started yesterday. No, it started on Thursday. What am I saying? It started on Thursday. It was yesterday. It's today, Sunday, and Monday. So take advantage of this. If you need thread, and you don't have to buy white thread like I do, they've got every color of the rainbow that you can pick out. So go there, get a cart, pack it full of thread. They probably have other blowout sales going on as well. And I don't get any credit for this. I don't get any credit from Joann's. I just think they're a great company and they do great things and they offer great value. And I love getting a great deal like all of you. So take advantage of it and walk out of the store with a storehouse of thread. And Joan can do that with her family as well. She can go over there and buy some additional polyester thread, so she's all set to make those deck cushions, right? All set to make those deck cushions. Yeah, here's my receipt. Here's my receipt. It's kind of embarrassing, isn't it? Look at that. That receipt goes on and on and on. The poor lady that checked me out at Joann's yesterday, Susie was right next to me and she was grinning like a possum. That poor lady had to take a break. She had to go get an energy bar after she was done with me, because she has to scan. The store requires, so that there's no error in inventory and such, she has to scan every one of those spools. You know, not only was she exhausted, but she probably got carpal tunnel syndrome as well. Just from my, yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? But you know what? Why not? You know, buy one, get one free, buy one, get one free, buy one, get one free. And they've got no limit either. I thought they were going to stop me at the register and say, sir, you're out of control. You're out of control, man. But the cashier was just happy as a clam. She says, ooh, you found some bargains. I said, you bet I did. You bet I did. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. All right. I heard a chime in from Susie's notification. Let me see what Susie's bringing something to my attention real quick. Let me see what it is. Change. Oh, okay. Joan and Kathy. Did I get it wrong? Because I said Joan sent me Katy. So I said Katie. Is it? Let's find out from Joan. Am I getting her daughter's name right? Is it Katy? That's what she typed in her text message, or is it Kathy? It may have been a mistype. It may have been, but I looked at it very carefully. Names are so important. I didn't want to mess it up. So hopefully Joan's. It's Katy. Okay, Katy. Excellent. Katy. Okay, so I did get it right. Yay. Yeah, so Katie's in the chat, and she learned how to sew on this sewing machine. Joan's daughter. And I don't know if Joan has more than one daughter. Maybe Joan has more than one daughter, but if she only has one daughter, then Katie is the one that has the sailboat. Katie's the one that Joan and she are going to be using this machine to make those deck cushions with for that newly acquired or recently acquired sailboat. So Katie, and then also the goddaughter as well. If I got my notes right, goddaughter, blah, blah, blah. Where did I write it? Goddaughter, come on, Scott. Goddaughter Danielle learned to sew on this machine as well. So it's been a family machine for almost a half a century. It's been a family machine for almost a half a century. Yep, goddaughter Danielle. So Katie, thank you for clarifying that. I love it when the family can be part of a live stream like this. They can see this machine do its dance. They can see the machine back to greatness again. And the machine has been sewing faithfully for this family for almost a half a century. But even if machines are reconditioned when they're pulled out of a junk pile with somebody that doesn't have the knowledge of the value of a machine like this, they still need to be resurrected sometimes because they've gotten so much use. This machine has been used, like I said, for hundreds of quilted pot holders and curtains and you name it. This machine has done it. And you remember Susie's Japanese made Kenmore. Susie's Japanese Kenmore has been sewing for 50 years. So any of you poo-poo people out there that are watching and have always looked negatively on Japanese machines or other machines for that matter, but Japanese machines sometimes have gotten a little cult of people that for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, don't buy Japanese machines. They're no good. Well, when you've got a machine like this, but that's been sewing faithfully for 45 years, and you've got Susie's machine and hundreds and thousands of other machines that were made in Japan that have been sewing for much longer than 50 years, you know you've got a product that is built with incredibly high quality standards. That's the way the Japanese people are. That's their culture. The whole culture of the Japanese culture is to build things that they can be proud of. Pride in their country and their products is central to what they've always done. And so when they were building these machines post-World War II, they wanted to build a machine that they could be proud of. That's why they put that badge mark right on the front of the machine saying made in Japan. So if there are any people in the audience that are, for whatever reason, I'm not into Japanese machines, just as I recently presented some other Japanese machines, I think we're going to win you over. I think you're going to leave this live stream saying, oh my goodness, that Joan lady in the Twin Cities area, she is a smart gal. She knew what was in that junk pile and she scooped up a treasure. I'm going to start watching to see if I can find a machine like that because I've seen what it can do. And I've seen that it's even got improvements well and beyond what its American counterpart that the Japanese used to model this machine after. It's got improvements that far exceed even the original one that came out of the US. So you're buying really a DOS 201. Isn't it how they say it? When something's been improved, it's like the next Apple product, Apple product 11 or 12. I don't know anything about Apple. So any of you Apple people can express knowledge about that. But people are always looking for that next upgrade, that next product that's going to be a step up from the last one. I've just got to tell you folks, and nothing against Singer, nothing against the Singer sewing machine company established in 1851. And again, the Class 15 rolled out very, 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 very early in their rollout of sewing machines with their lock stitch machines. But this is an improvement. This machine is a step up from its big brother or its little brother from the US that would have come out. The 1591, as most of you know, came out in the 1920s. So, and these came out 3 decades later, and they made a lot of step up improvements on this machine. Anyway, I could blah 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 all day long, but it's an honor to have Joan here. It's an honor to have Katie here as well. It's an honor. I don't know if Danielle is here, but if Danielle is in the audience as well, it's great to have Danielle, the goddaughter that learned on this machine as well, and also great to have Steve here out in Arizona. I believe Steve is out in Arizona right now. So real quick, I didn't finish answering the question. I do that a lot. Thank goodness my leaders keep me on track. The moderators that you can see that are in blue on the screen, they know I get so excited and I'm so passionate about what I do that I'll sometimes start going this way and then I'll start shifting over here before I finish over here. So I've got to finish over here. I already talked about the polyester thread. Polyester thread is the perfect thread to use on boat cushions. Whether you're going to be by fresh water, salt water, you're always going to have that exposure to the UV. A great needle right now, and some people may have pointed to this. I didn't look at all the live chat. But some people may have pointed at the idea of one of these Schmetz super duper non-stick needles. They're a universal needle. This would be a possibility to also use on marine vinyl. But there's even a better option than this by Schmetz now. There's even a better option than this Schmetz a non-stick universal sewing machine. And you can see this is a size 116. This would be a good size to use depending on the thickness of the marine vinyl that you're sewing with. But I'm going to be sewing actually with a smaller needle today. I'm going to be sewing with a universal 9014. So it's going to be one step down from this size needle. But if I can grab my phone real quick, there's actually even a better needle that Joan and Katie can use to make those deck cushions. I'm going to see if I can pull it up on my phone and show it to you. And it's possible that Jenny, who's part of our leadership team and works as our ambassador to needles, she's our knowledge bank as far as needles. She may already be aware of this, but if she's not, we can then take this information out and share it with others, right? Because that's what these live streams are all about, is sharing information back and forth among ourselves. We're all fellow teachers, we're all fellow students, and then we take that information out of this classroom and we take it around the world so that we can educate people and give them a higher level of enjoyment with their Japanese universal machines or whatever kind of sewing machine that they're using, right? So this is the needle that Schmetz would probably recommend. And as most of you know, Schmetz follows us. Schmetz Needles follows us on YouTube. They follow us on Facebook. They love us. We love them. And this is the needle that they probably would point to as the best needle to use if you're going to do marine type vinyl sewing. It's also super non-stick, but it's designed specifically with the idea of sewing on vinyl. So I'll let you kind of take a look at that. It looks like they go up to size 100. Now, I don't know if this is the end all. I don't know if this is the size. This looks like a multi-pack, size 70, 80, 90, 100. Maybe they make a bigger one. I don't know. If someone wants to research that during the live stream and see if they make a size, maybe a size 110 or larger. I don't know if they do, but this is what I found. They're a vinyl needle by Schmetz. They are available. You can see on top here. They are available, at least here online. They're available at Joan's. So when you go into Joan's to buy all that thread up, you could always grab a pack of these vinyl super duper, what are they? Super non-stick vinyl type needles that are supposed to be really great for sewing on all types of vinyl, sticky stuff. You know what I mean? Susie was sharing her knowledge with me yesterday as we were talking about preparing for this live stream. And she said, yeah, that vinyl can be awful when you're sewing vinyl. Sometimes it can almost like stop you in the process of sewing it. It's so sticky. It kind of halts the machine almost a little bit. So any of you that haven't sewn on vinyl, just a heads up, vinyl can be a real tricky product material to sew on. Maybe even if you use a needle like this, I don't know. But check these out and then circle back and let us know if you try them, what you think. And maybe Joan and her daughter Katie can circle back as well and say, yeah, those really made a big difference. Or no, they don't really. They're not as great as as people say they are. We can always be honest, right? We can always be honest and give feedback to anyone, just like Susie did in the last live stream to the Guggenheim people about the size 7 scissors that they made. Yeah. So, at any rate, that's the type of needle. So I wanted to circle back and answer that question or give that information to you all. So, all right. What else did I want to cover? Oh, let me throw something out there for you all to see if you can answer this question during the live stream. Let me see if you can answer this question during the live stream. Japanese machines are still made today. That's almost like a duh factor, right? Japanese machines are still made today. If anyone wants to try to name, according to an independent source that's well respected, they rated all of the Japanese companies that are still making sewing machines, and they ranked them 1 to 10. They ranked them 1 to 10. And if anyone wants to try to, you can Google it, you can research it or whatever. But if anyone wants to try to come up with those 10 companies that were rated independently as the best of the best in the Japanese realm of making sewing machines, and you want to type it into the live chat, then I'm going to give you a complimentary pair of the Guggenheim shears, not these used ones that I'm using, but I'm going to give you a pair of unopened Guggenheim shears, a value of $50. So if you want to Google that and then be the first to type it in the live chat, the top 10 Japanese companies that are making sewing machines today from 1 to 10. And I'm going to give you a huge hint. The number one company in the world, well, in the world of Japan, the number one company in the world of Japan that makes sewing machines, their company name starts with the letter B, like Bravo. So you go from there, get number 2 all the way through 10, type it in the live chat, and if you nail it, I'll mail you a brand new pair of Guggenheim professional tailoring shears like this to you anywhere in the world. I'll mail them to you anywhere in the world. So if you get the answer right, type it in the live chat. I'm going to also send. No, I won't. I'll verify it once I look at the live chat, and then just reach out afterwards. Yeah, Happy Sewing Company is one of them, Tim. Well done. Tim is spot on. Happy Sewing Company is one of the companies that are in that top 10 that are making sewing machines today. But yeah, if you want to win a pair of these awesome Guggenheim professional tailoring scissors with a lifetime warranty, they have a lifetime warranty. In fact, if you get a pair of these, you don't like them, they'll send you your money back and you can keep the sewing scissors. Hopefully people aren't being dishonest and they love them and they want their money back anyway, because I bought probably 20 or 30 pairs of these that I've given away to all of you, and every person that gets them, including Susie and others that are in this live chat right now, are like, oh my gosh, where have these been all of my sewing days? Where have these been all my sewing days? They're one of the finest scissors that I've ever sewn, that I've ever used in sewing. So yeah, if you want to win these, dig in there. You've already got 2 of them where you got 1.5. Tim gave you one of them, but you got to rank them from 1 to 10. Rank them from 1 to 10, those Japanese companies. Yep, go ahead and do that. All right. Let me see what else I've got. What else do I have? Also, during this live stream, I want to mention it real quick. During this live stream, we're also I'm going to call Susie down. Yeah, Tim just nailed another one of them, Juki. But again, I need them in rank order. I need them from 1 to 10. 1 being from this independent source being the best Japanese sewing machine company in the world. And then all the way down to number 10. I would hate to be number 10 if I were in Japan. Wouldn't you? If you were a Japanese sewing machine company, wouldn't you hate to be ranked number 10? Because pride to any of us is so important, but especially to the Japanese people. They're so much driven by pride and trying to be proud of what they're doing and the way they live and the way everything they do is built on the foundation of pride. I'd hate to be number 10, but someone's got to be number 10, right? Someone's got to be number 10. But yeah, Tim just nailed brother, Juki, Happy. Yeah, all of those are in that list of 1 to 10. So if someone can do it and you want to win those Guggenheim professional tailoring shears, which would be great, by the way, to cut marine vinyl, they would be really, really good to cut marine vinyl. Then do your due diligence during the live stream. You've got to do it during the live stream. If you come up with the answers afterwards and you reach out, I'm going to pat you on the back. I'm going to say, great job, but you're not going to win the shears. So get into it right now. Yeah, Aaron Allen from the beautiful state of Vermont is helping all of you out. Aaron from the beautiful state of Vermont is helping you out. Brother is the #1 Japanese sewing machine company in the world. They not only make incredible household sewing machines, light industrial, but they also make crazy commercial sewing machines as well that are bulletproof. You can sew through patio blocks with them. Yeah, amazing, 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 amazing. All right, so pull that together and see if you can win a pair of those professional tailoring shears. I'm going to catch my breath a little bit because we've only been running for 43 minutes and already my whistle is dry because I've been blah, blah, blah. So be patient with me for a minute. I'm going to put on a little bit of music and I'm going to get a drink of tea and get a drink of Diet Coke. And then we're going to start launching into this a little bit more. And eventually I'm going to be calling Susie downstairs so that she can participate with me in opening a mystery surprise package that came from the state of New York from our dear friends, Candido and Rachel. So we're going to be opening that mystery package during this live stream. If I somehow goof up and I'm like, okay, everybody take care, God bless, and I haven't done it, stop me in my tracks and say, hold on, buddy. We got to open that package from Candido and Rachel. So if I get distracted, reel me back in and remind me about that. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. You know why? Because I think it might be something to eat. And I love the things that Candido and Rachel sent before. So yeah, I'm going to be walking more, exercising more, and enjoying, if it's edible, something that's in this package out of New York really, really soon. Yeah. All right. Put on some music and then we'll jump into this. Where is my music? Music. All right. Voice recorder. Where is it? Let's put on something a little bit longer playing. There it is. All right. A little bit more ragtime. I've got to record more Japanese music. Oh, that's right. I also have to do an audio and a video check real quick, too. What is that? That's downright. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. 1 2 3 4 5. 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, we're sounding good. We're sounding good. I think we're streaming well. Hopefully nobody's getting that little spinning thing today. All right, we're going to jump back into this in just a second. Let me close this one out. We'll put on some music again. All right. I hate when it's echoing like that. It reminds me of making calls from Europe when I was in the military. When you're calling on a phone from Europe back to the States, there's like this echo thing where everything you say is like echoed back in your ear. It's so irritating. You always feel like you're interrupting yourself. You know what I mean? I love rake time, don't you? Rake time is like the best. Oh, Erin Allen's got a good start on that, doesn't she? All right, let me stop that music real quick. Well, it looks like I don't know if Erin Allen has all 10 of them, but she's got a list that she's compiling there starting, it looks like number 2, Janome, Juki, and it goes down. It goes down. So you know, once we get the complete list, if someone posts all 10, I'll compare them to my list and we'll see if we can declare a winner during this live stream. I'm serious. You are going to go nuts if you get a pair of these scissors. You're going to love these shears. You're going to absolutely love these shears. All right, so let me get into this. I'm going to start with, I've got to make sure I don't forget to do anything else. I should probably start with the setup of the machine, shouldn't I? Talk a little bit about the threading in the machine, etc. Kind of walk you around this universal a little bit as well. So starting on the right side of the machine, if you're winding a bobbin, you're going to obviously disengage the clutch, hold the balance wheel, turn this towards you, and then you can disengage the clutch. Now, to give you an idea of the power of this machine, now, power is a big deal when you're sewing marine vinyl, right? Power is a big deal when you're sewing marine vinyl. Let me see if I can line this up properly. I'm going to go ahead and disengage that clutch. See if we can fire this machine up. And you can check out the power. Part of my normal service for a machine that comes to the workshop, which is very different than other sewing repair shops or sewing backs, is they do a quick little once over the machine. They lubricate it. They might grease the gears if they know where they're at. And they do some other quick once over stuff. And then they're done. They're done in about 30 to 45 minutes. On Joan's machine that Katie learned to sew on, and also Danielle, the goddaughter, I spent about 12 hours on this machine. And part of that process is focusing on that motor, or as our friends in Europe call it, the engine of the machine, and making sure that that engine is running as fast and furious as it possibly can to deliver as much power down to the needle as it can. So when I got the machine, it wasn't horrible, but it was probably running like right around, let me see if I can do it here. Probably like right about there. Now, after Workshop Magic, even with the bobbin winder engaged, So does it have power to sew marine vinyl to make those deck cushions for Katie's sailboat? Yeah, that and then some. It's got a lot of reserve power now, a lot of reserve power. So it'll be fun to see Joan and Katie sit down to this machine, start to sew that marine vinyl and go, holy mackerel, maybe we can make these thicker. Yeah, because this is a beast of a machine now. So here's our bobbin winder. You all already saw me engage it and disengage it. You just kind of push it in. And then once the bobbin fills up, it disengages automatically. And if you ever have to adjust these, remember this is your adjusting screw right there. If it's not making good enough contact with the rim of that balance wheel, then loosen this and depress it a little bit, hold it in place, tighten that screw, and then you'll make some really good contact. But remember, you don't want to make it so tight that you've got to like lift your foot off the ground to push this down, because then it's going to put excessive drag on the motor and it's going to make the winding process take forever. So it's got to make good solid contact with the balance wheel rim. And I did replace the bobbin winding tire on this machine as well, because it had a number of flat spots on it. You can kind of see that from the side. So it's got a brand new bobbin winding tire as well, which will make that bobbin winding process so much nicer for Joan and for Katie, etc. But just remember that adjustment. It should make good contact, but it really shouldn't be where you push it like this and then you have to force this down. You have to force this down. You should be able to push this and it should drop down automatically. And then you've got good contact. You can see that with the wheel moving, but it's not excessive. Okay. So our controls over here are real simple and straightforward. Stitch length. They use the same plate on this universal machine that Joan acquired in 1975 as they do on the Class 15s for Singer. And so they're going to show a range of 6 stitches down to 30 stitches. The Japanese machines, depending on the feed dog system that they have, they don't always achieve that 6 stitches per inch. They're generally going to be much closer to 7 to 8 stitches per inch, which is still great. It's still going to be fine for most any sewing. And that's right in the realm of what most quilters are looking for anyway. Most quilters are going to be right around 8 stitches per inch. So the Japanese machines are very suitable for any of that type of sewing. But I just want to be an honest broker in saying that when they got the plans and the patents and the designs from Singer, they used the same plate and they never modified the numbers on here. They used the same plate stamp and everything. So it's going to say 6 to 30, but in many cases, you're going to be closer to 7 to 8 stitches down to about 28 to 30 stitches per inch. So it's going to be right in the ballpark, but there may be a slight variance. I just want people to understand that. And then if you're sewing in reverse, you're going to move the stitch length controller all the way to the top to sew in reverse. And then you've got this little boundary marker here where if you want to loosen this up and set a limitation as far as how far this lever will go up or down, then it'll set that boundary for you. Okay. Winding a bobbin, you're going to put your spool of thread here. I usually kind of do a little wrap around here. Some people just go with the thread straight from left to right and then up. I usually go from over the top, kind of clockwise, and then come back up and then go up here to the bobbin. The reason I do that is I like to wind at a fast rate. And if you put the spool of thread here and you just go rup and up, it's going to have a tendency to pop out of there when you're trying to wind. So what I would recommend is when you come off the spool, go clockwise around this tensioner, kind of tuck it in there, go like this, come here, come up then to your bobbin here. Okay. If you do that, you're going to be able to wind at a crazy rate of speed and it's not going to pop out of that tensioner as readily. Yeah. What else? Let's see here. Oh, I'll ask a quick question while we're going around the machine. Does anyone know what size motor this machine has that Joan acquired back in 1975? What size motor? And secondly, was the motor made in Japan or another country? 2 questions for you. What size motor? And was the motor on the back of Joan's machine made in Japan with the machine, or was it made elsewhere? We've seen before that a number of the Singer sewing machines were made in Kilbowie, Scotland, and then they were finished in St. John, Canada. They were made up in Canada and finished there. So that happens quite frequently where a sewing machine company will stage their production. They'll do a certain amount at one location, and then they'll move that product to another location to finish off that machine before it's distributed out to be sold. So use your best guess. Your best guess, was the motor made in Japan or elsewhere? And what size motor are we looking at on the back of Joan's machine? Okay. And I'll continue to walk us around a little bit. Now, this light, when this machine was made, some of the Japanese machines did have this type of light assembly, similar to the ones that are used on the 192K Spartan by Singer. Remember the 192K Spartan, which is a mirror image of the 99K, was made at the factory and shipped out of the factory without a light on it. That's just the way the Spartan, the 192Ks were made. Most of the Japanese left the factory, the Japanese machines left the factory with some sort of a lighting apparatus on the machine. One either like this, or oftentimes one that would mount to the back of this plate here and then would extend forward, similar to this one that's on the back of this 15-91, similar to that. But when this machine came to the workshop, it did not have a lighting system. And when Joan and I talked about it, she said, no, I think that'd be really a cool idea to have a light on there. So when Joan's Japanese Beauty leaves the workshop, it's going to have this lighting system on it, so that she's got a little bit better bright. And yes, it does have a really nice LED bulb in it, an LED bulb that's going to put out a lot of light for her to be able to see what's happening down at the needle, etc. So about a little bit about threading real quick, a little bit about threading. I'm going to come off the top of the thread like this. There's a little thread point right here. You kind of see that right there. The thread goes through there. It then drops down to the tension discs right here. And make sure your presser foot lever is in the up position. It's got to be in the up position. You bring that thread in between the discs down around the bottom like this. And then when you come back here, you go behind this thread guide right here. You got to bring that thread behind here and then over the top. See how it's over the top? And then after you go over the top, you come through this check spring right here, this take-up spring. And there were a number of issues. Joan was curious, and she said, what was going on with the machine? Because it wasn't sewing right. There were issues with the upper tension that I had to rebuild. And there also was an issue with the oscillating hook system on this, having some barbing on the end of the hook that grabs that thread in the sewing process. Those were two of the key issues going on with Joan's machine. And there was nothing that had been done wrong with the machine. It was used for 45 years. And over time, you can develop issues with the hook system, and you can develop issues with the tension as well. And so both of those issues were corrected in the workshop, and it's sewing very well now. But anyway, back to the threading. You come off the top, you come around the tension discs like this, you go behind this thread guide right here, and then back over the top through the take-up spring right here, bring that thread through there, back up to the take-up arm. You thread the take-up arm from left to right, and then you're going to come down to this thread guide on the front of this beautiful faceplate. You're then going to come down to this thread guide, you can see right there, and bring the thread from right to left, so it's on this side of the needle, and then you're going to thread this needle from left to right. And as you might suspect, the flat side of the needle on this class 15 Japanese machine, which way is the flat side going to be facing on this Japanese machine? Which side will the flat side be? And again, it's critical you know which way to face the flat side, because that flat side is going to have the same side as the scarf that hook system needs to come real close to grab that thread, right? it's got to come in there real close and grab the threads. So if you point the flat side of the needle the wrong direction, you're going to be missing the thread. You're going to be skipping stitches. You might not even be able to bring the thread up from the bobbin case if you have the flat side the wrong way. So the correct answer is the flat side has to be facing towards the pillar, which is to the right. Make sure you face the flat side to the right. And then you'll thread from left to right when you thread this machine up, okay? You get all those things right and you will have a happy, happy day. So the motor size, Tim had written down 0.7. It's actually going to be larger than 0.7. And I don't know, let's see, someone guessed North America. They put down Italian company, maybe an Italian company motor. I'm not sure if Teresa was talking about something else or talking about maybe the motor was made in Italy. But the correct answer on the motor, I'll just give it to you. The correct answer on the motor is that the motor was made in the U.S. It's actually a U.S. motor that was made for the Universal Sewing Machine Company. And it is a 1 amp motor. It's 1 amp. So 1 amp is a big boy or a big girl type motor. It's quite large. I'll see if I can give you a shot of it with the camera so you can kind of look at that plate on there. But you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, I believe it is, made in the U.S. Made in the U.S. And I can tell you one thing, going through that motor, they didn't spare anything in building that motor. The quality of the stators, the commutator, the stack lamentations, every component of that electric motor is just top notch. And it's also built with a rotary type design where it spikes with power very rapidly. It's got a range of cycles that range from, let me look at it to remind myself. It's got a range cycle on it from 25 up to 75. Now, what that means from a motor standpoint is it has incredible torque. The motor has incredible torque. Even with me adjusting the belt on this motor, it's got so much grit and gumption that even giving it a little bit of a hand start, it sometimes tries to overpower that belt. And that's even after cleaning the output pulley on the motor, cleaning the rim of the balance wheel and everything else. It's got so much torque and so much grab and drive, it almost tries to overspin the balance wheel. So that's just something to note for Joan and Katie. If you're using this machine, be aware that it's got a lot of launch. And if you're sewing something that's a little bit more controlled, a little bit more delicate, be really light on the gas pedal. Be really light on the gas pedal. And if you have to give it a little bit of a launch with turning the balance wheel when you're engaging that foot controller, so you get a more smooth launch. And remember as well, with these oscillating hook systems, they're wonderful for heavier thread, right? They're wonderful for heavier thread because instead of going a full circle like this, they rock like a pendulum from side to side, which means they can manage that heavier thread because they don't have to bring that thread all the way around with the hook system. They just rock it from one corner to the other. But the other challenge with an oscillating hook system is it tends to be a little bit more aggressive when you launch about pulling that thread. And what you'll tend to encounter if you're not giving a brief hold on that thread when you launch, what you'll tend to encounter is you'll encounter a little bit of bird nesting on the bottom of the material. This is a small example of it right there. But I had a couple of other off-camera sew-offs where I got lazy, and you get a little bit more of that kind of stuff going on, where it grabs that thread and it pulls it, and that hook gets a little bit too much extra thread, and then it creates a little bit of an issue on the bottom of the material. So just be aware of that. Take a little bit of extra time when you're launching initially. You just have to hold that thread for like the first one or two stitches, and then let it go, and then just enjoy the sewing process after that launch. And also, I talk about it all the time, and I probably drive people crazy, but remember to have that take-up arm at the highest position when you launch as well. See how it's just about to go on that downstroke. It's just about to go on that downstroke right now. And that's the perfect way to launch any sewing machine, but particularly an oscillating hook system so that it doesn't bind up on you. Machines will bind up if you try to launch them with that take up arm way down instead of at the highest position, just beginning that downstroke. So just some good tips so you can have success in sewing. All right. So all of that blah, blah, blahing. Let's do this. Let's start at last with some of this marine type vinyl stuff. Vinyl is notorious for creating all kinds of problems in the sewing process. It causes stitch distortion. It causes skip stitching. It causes every problem that can possibly happen. And I don't know how much marine vinyl or another similar material that Joan and Katie might be using for these deck cushions, but marine vinyl in particular is built for durability and for protection against UV and all the other stuff. It's really sturdy stuff, which tells you right away the piercing threshold is going to be really, really high. It's going to be a very difficult material to get through. So we're going to be trying 2 layers of it, which is probably about as thick as Joan and Katie would go. I can't imagine them using more than 1 layer probably, but let's just assume that they use 2 layers. We're going to do 2 layers, and then we're going to add a 3rd layer to it as well to see how this universal powered with that 1 amp US motor does against 3 layers of this marine style vinyl. Okay. So with all of that blah, 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 and before I launch into this, I should also go around and say good morning to everybody, right? Say good morning. We always call this our family, and it's kind of rude of me if I don't take a moment and pause to say good morning to the family, right? You got to say good morning to the family. So let me get this into position, and I'll have this 3rd one in reserve, and then we're going to try to buzz down this and see how it goes. All right, let me scroll up in the live chat and see if I can say hello to everybody. It also looks like someone may have taken a guess at it. Teresa looks like listed Brother Juki, Janome, and then there's a bunch of others. I think she has Toyota in there, and it goes down and down and down and down and down. You will be surprised. You will be incredibly surprised that some of the companies that Teresa has listed in her post in the live chat will be on the list that I ultimately give you near the end of this live stream. Some of them will not be. And some of the companies that I named that are now Japanese companies manufacturing products are traditionally from other countries. So you're going to be a little bit surprised by this list of current Japanese companies ranked from 1 to 10, because some of them you're going to be like, what? No way. You're joking. You're messing with us, right? Are you messing with us? Is that real? Are you serious? But yeah, again, I'll give you at the end of the live stream, I'll give you the source that I got this from, and then we can fact check it. Maybe I think they're right, they're reliable, they're well respected, but everyone makes mistakes, so we can always fact check them, and then at the next live stream we can circle back and see whether or not they got it correct or not, right? Yeah. Okay. So let me do this. I'm going to bump my heater back up because now it's getting cold in here. It's been in the teens in the Twin Cities. It's been really, really, really cold in the Twin Cities. I think it got down to like almost single digits last night. Really, really cold. So I'm a little bit of a wimp when it comes to cold now. All right. So let me scroll up and say good morning to everybody that I can see. Let's see here. Let's see. Good morning. Susie was the first in the classroom today. I think she, because she's gotten beat out a couple times recently, I think she was sitting there waiting for me to go live with her finger on the mouse, ready to click and say, good morning. So Susie, Susie beat everybody, but right on her heels was our ambassador to needles, Jenny, out of the great state of Ohio, if I remember correctly. Jenny, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe Jenny is from Ohio, out east. And then Candido was right in after that. Candido and Rachel from New York. Teresa and Tim from Thorpe, Wisconsin. Good morning to those good folks as well. Good morning also to, who else do we have? I'm scrolling. Good morning to Kathy King. Kathy King, I believe, is also out east as well. Good morning to, let's see who else we have. Good morning to A. DeBelsier. I don't believe I've ever seen that name before. A. DeBelsier. A. DeBelsier. If this is your first time, welcome. It's great to have you here. I'm sure the leaders and others have already welcomed you. It's great to have you here. And it looks like our friend A. DeBelsier is a user of only antique sewing machines before 1880. So this friend of ours that is in the live chat today very likely is a fan of Singer 12Ks. Singer 12Ks were one of the earliest singers in that range that our friend likes sewing on. And I have no idea if A.D. Belsier has shared where they're from, either in the States or elsewhere, but it's great to have you here. Great to have you here. And remember, again, when you're talking about machines, I just have to clarify this because this came up recently as I was helping somebody in the Twin Cities estimate the value of a machine that they had. They right away referred to it as an antique machine. And as we talked more about the machine, it was apparent that it was an old machine. It was a vintage machine, but it did not qualify to be called an antique machine. How old does a machine need to be considered officially an antique? If anyone knows that answer, go ahead and type it in the live chat. How old does a sewing machine need to be considered officially an antique? And that's the type of machine that our friend A.D. Belsier would enjoy or exclusively sew on. Also, good morning to Tim as well. Good morning to Katie. Katie is the daughter of Joan and learned to sew on this machine that we're going to be using today. Also, good morning to, I'm scrolling. Good morning to, still scrolling. Let's see if there's anybody else in the live chat. And if I miss somebody somehow, please bring it to my attention. I don't want to miss anybody. If I miss saying good morning to somebody, please let me know. Good morning also to Aaron Allen. Aaron Allen from the beautiful state of Vermont. Great to have Aaron here as always. Good morning also to John Peters. Great to have John Peters here as well. And I know nothing of John, but it's great to have John Peters here with us this morning as well. Good morning also to, still scrolling. I might have caught everybody. I'm almost at the bottom. Yeah, and Susie's absolutely correct. A lot of people automatically, if they have an older sewing machine, I've even had some people that have machines from the 1970s. From the 1970s, and they're calling it an antique sewing machine. And I'm like, what? Really? So if you use the term antique, you should be referring to a machine that is 100 years old or older. 100 years old or older. Okay? So you've got to make that. If you get into other circles, you'll find it on Facebook. You'll find it on Etsy. You'll find it on Pinterest. People inaccurately referring to vintage machines, certain models or makes that they're presenting as antique. And they're anything but antique. Some of them might even be from the 1920s or 1930s. And depending on the date of that 1920 realm, they may be pretty close. They might be pretty doggone close to that benchmark of 100, but in many cases they're misstating it. So just set them straight and do it with kindness. Do it with kindness, as I'm sure you will, right? Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to check. I think I heard the phone vibrate. I'm just going to see if there's any other messages that I need to take note of. I'll also put on a little bit more music. I'm going to rest my voice just for a second, and then we'll resume moving forward with this marine vinyl. We're going to start with 2 layers. Then we're going to try to step it up to 3 layers. Okay. And again, according to Schmetz, we're not using the best needle to do this with. We should be using that non-stick vinyl needle, and we're using a universal needle instead. So we'll hopefully get some good results. We'll see what happens, right? All right, a little bit of an interlude so I could kind of rest my voice for a second. And now we're going to launch into our first sew off and see how this universal machine does with this marine style vinyl, similar to the material that Joan and Katie might use to make those deck cushions. So I'm going to get one more quick little drink of tea, and then we're going to launch into this. All right, let me get that foot controller. All right. So again, notice my take-up arm is at the highest position. I'm going to give a brief hold to that thread as we launch into this. I'm not going to give any boost to the balance wheel. We're just going to launch into it. We'll see how we do. When we go up to 3 layers, I might have to give it a little bit of a boost just so that motor with its torque doesn't overspin that belt, doesn't overspin the belt, okay? All right, let's give this a go and see how we do against this marine style vinyl. Here we go. I got distracted. I was so focused on that balance wheel overspinning. I kind of looked over that way and I almost sewed off the material. Not sewed off like SEW, but went off course. So hopefully I did okay. We'll take a look at these stitches. Again, this is 2 layers of this marine style vinyl. And then we will, where are my clippers? Looking for my clippers now. They're somewhere around here. I know I've got them around here. Oh, right in front. Okay. It's so nice to have a machine that is back to more power than it's probably ever had in its life. It makes it look so doggone easy. So I didn't sew very straight, so you'll have to forgive that. Hopefully I do better on the second sew off. But we'll take a look at these stitches. And you'll see also I didn't do a real good job. We'll see it on the back side. I didn't do a great job of holding that thread at the launch with this oscillating hook system. And the result is I've got a little bit of a thread boohoo on the back. So, all right, let's take a look at these stitches. I don't know what you're seeing. I don't know what you're seeing on the camera screen or whatever, but our launch on these stitches, our top stitch in particular, is looking absolutely spectacular. The formation, the spacing, the alignment of those stitches are exactly as they should be. Let's go across and take a look at them. And again, this is 2 layers of marine style vinyl. Kind of go across like this. Yeah, that's where I went off course. See that? I almost sewed off of the material completely. I'm notorious for not sewing very straight. Let's look at it like this as well. And imagine if we use that Schmetz vinyl needle, we would have even a better result. But this is absolutely excellent, excellent, excellent result. All right, let me go back that way again. See if the camera will focus in on it for us, hopefully. Waiting for the camera to focus. Go across now. Yeah, with a vinyl needle, we would really have even a better stitch than we have now, but it's really quite excellent. This camera's having a little trouble today. Let me come out a little bit. We'll come out to it right about there, maybe. I think I'm trying to get too close to the lens, getting too close to the lens of the camera. And again, when you're going through vinyl, because of the density of it, you may have to make some tension adjustments. You may have to adjust that tension just a little bit so that it can pull on that thread a little bit harder. If you get a little bit of a tilt sometimes on a stitch, in 99% of the cases, that's going to be because the tension has been thrown off a little bit. See, try it like this again. The camera's having a little trouble, maybe because of the blue color. I don't know. There we go. Yeah, I'll have to pick up some of those vinyl needles and give them a try when we sew on this material again in the future and just see what difference they make, if any. Some very good looking stitching on a very tricky, very, very tricky material. All right, let's take a look. I think we've gotten a good glimpse of the top stitching through these 2 layers of marine style vinyl. Now we're going to turn over and look at that lock stitch, and you'll see what I talked about. I didn't hold onto that thread quite right when I launched, and the result is you'll see a little bit of a thread boohoo on the bottom of this marine style vinyl. Let's see if this will help this maybe. Giving it a bigger background to focus on maybe. I think that's helping with this. I've got this box behind there to kind of allow the camera to focus on that isolated area. So some really good lock stitching as well. The lock stitching is the stitching that's on the bottom of the material. Some really, really good looking lock stitching. No skip stitches, no distortion of stitching at all. Just some really, really good looking stitching until you get over here, and that little thread boohoo can be fixed very easily by just using your snip or something like that to pull that thread out that where it pulled a little bit too much thread at the launch point. That was our beginning of the sewing right there. But if you do a better job than I did of holding onto that thread when you initially launch, you won't get that little loop on the bottom. I'll try to do a better job the second time. To make that look a little bit cleaner than it does now. But some really, really good lock stitching. And again, whenever you're sewing a material like marine vinyl like this, you might have to make a little bit of a tension adjustment to refine those stitches even further. But we've got some gorgeous stitching on the bottom that we're looking at right now, and also on the top as well. I'm going to spin it around this way. Also on the top, some beautiful, beautiful top stitching also across that material. So let's do this now. Let's add that third layer of vinyl and see if we can be successful in getting through it with no skip stitching and no distortion of stitching on a tricky vinyl material like this. All right, so I've got these 2 layers we've already done. We're going to add a third layer now. And I'll put it back to back like this so that we'll be able to see that initial stitch line that we did here. And then we'll be able to see the lock stitching on the bottom of this more clearly. And hopefully I do a better job of sewing straight and also holding that thread at launch, so you can see that you can avoid that if you do what I said we should be doing, but actually do it. Okay, so let me get that down. All right, so I'm going to try to do a better job this time. We're still going to try to launch without giving this a hand start. If I hit that 3 layers of marine style vinyl, you can see that's a very thick sew off. If I hit that and the needle stops, then I'll give it a little bit of a boost with the balance wheel and get that momentum going once I get those first few stitches down. And I'll try to hold on to this a little bit more sturdy this time to avoid that little bird nest thing on the bottom. All right. Let me get that foot controller in place. And we'll give this a launch. Okay, here we go. You heard that motor spin up. It actually spun faster than the belt. And that happens with this machine because of the design of that motor. So there I did a much better job. And it looks like on the backside, well, I still got a little bit of that pull, didn't I? I still got a little bit of that thread pull down here. I did a better job, but again, that's easy enough to solve. Let me see where my clips are. Well, I won't bother with it, but you know how you can just pull that extra thread out and then just clip it off. We won't bother with that right now, but let's give this a clip and take a look at this second stitch line where we're going through 3 layers of marine style vinyl now. 3 layers, which is much thicker than Joan or Katie would be doing in their deck cushion project for that sailboat. Okay, let's take a look at these and see what we think. And I'm going to get my little marker so we can mark. Let me see which one it is. Set that right there. I'll put a mark next to the second row that we did. All right, that's our second row with the 3 layers. The backside is easy to tell right away because it only has 1 stitch line on it. All right, let's take a look at these stitches and see if we see any skip stitches, any distortion of stitching or anything like that. I think you're going to be pretty impressed with how well this Japanese Universal is doing against a very difficult task. The more difficult task is trying to get the camera to focus on it. Hopefully I can do that as well. There we go, at last. So you can see my little black mark there. My little black mark with the Sharpie, is showing the second stitch line we did with 3 layers of this marine vinyl. 3 layers of marine vinyl. And you know what? The stitches are just as gorgeous. They're absolutely spectacular. If you look at both stitch lines, our first one on the bottom is 2 layers of marine vinyl. The top one is 3 layers of marine vinyl, and that top stitching is looking absolutely spectacular. Again, when you're sewing this type of material, you may have to make some tension adjustments, which we have not done. We haven't made any tension adjustments up to this point, so we could refine that stitch further by adjusting the tension appropriately. See if we can look at it like this. Those are gorgeous, gorgeous stitches. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Beautiful stitches through this marine vinyl material. Matter of fact, I think I like the second one even better than the first. And we went through that much more marine vinyl in the process of doing it. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. That top row again is our second sew off going through 3 layers of marine style vinyl. 3 layers of marine style vinyl. And the stitches are even more gorgeous than the first row we did, I think. Aren't those great? Aren't those spectacular? And again, if we use a vinyl needle that Schmetz recommends, we probably could even get better results. But I think those are really, really good results for Joan's machine. This universal Japanese machine, some really, really good results. Stitching can always be better, I think. I don't think there's no such thing as the perfect stitch, but these stitches are definitely brag-worthy. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching going through a very, very, probably the trickiest material that we're going to be sewing with during this live stream today, this marine vinyl. Now, if we turn it over, we can look at that single row of lock stitching that represents our sew off going through those 3 layers. And I didn't do a great job of holding onto that thread. You can see my little snafu right there. That happens because that oscillating hook system aggressively pulls that thread at the launch. And you've got to really kind of fight the machine to hold a strong grip on that. Otherwise, it creates a little bit of a bird nest type thing, like you can see here. Let me see if I can hold it like this, and we'll get that camera to focus in on these stitches on the bottom. So if you ignore my little bird nest on the bottom because I didn't do a good job of holding onto that thread, you go across and look at these stitches, you've got some very, very good looking lock stitches. Again, when you go through this much marine vinyl, you may have to make some tension adjustments. You may have to bump it up on the top to increase the definition of this lock stitch. You might have to bump it back to give more definition to that top stitch. But the fact that we didn't skip a single stitch and we're using a universal needle instead of a vinyl needle, or something that Schmetz would recommend would be a better choice, we're still getting some spectacular results on the lock stitch. And I've said it before a million times, the lock stitch is always going to be trickier to do than the top stitch, not just because of the bird nesting that you can get on these oscillating hook system machines, but because that needle needs to sweep down through these 3 thick layers of marine vinyl. Look at what we went through. It's got to sweep through these thick layers of marine vinyl and then pull that thread back up. So that's why the lock stitch, the stitching on the bottom, it was always going to be more challenging than getting a decent looking top stitch. That's why a lot of people selling sewing machines on eBay, Etsy, Pinterest, they'll show you the sew off and they'll show you the top stitching, but they don't show you what the stitch looks like on the bottom. And that's because in a lot of instances, it doesn't look good. But our stitching through all of this marine style vinyl, much, much thicker than what I would anticipate Joan and Katie would be sewing through, is delivering a lock stitch that all in all with a universal needle is looking really, really spectacular. And that top stitching is also equally spectacular as well. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted to see, I didn't test this off camera. I'm delighted to see that the machine did as well as it did. I only tested 2 layers of marine vinyl off camera. And the fact that we got the results that we did with 3 layers, I'm an incredibly happy person with the performance of Joan's universal Japanese machine. Really, really impressed. Excellent job. Okay. What do I sew off on next? I've got a bunch of materials that are possibilities. I've got this fake fleece material that's made out of 100% polyester. I've got satin. I've got more vinyl material here. This is another type of vinyl. It's not a marine vinyl necessarily, but it's a vinyl material. I've got this outdoor material. I've got upholstery material here, this red stuff. This upholstery material is made out of recycled nylon and polyester. 55% recycled nylon and 45% polyester. I've got 100% cotton with quilt batting. I've got this 100% nylon that is really ultra sheer. You can see my fingers through the other side of it right there. We've sewn on this before. We've got denim. We've got denim over here. We've got genuine cowhide. You can actually see the stamp on the leather right there on the edge of it. Genuine cowhide as well. We've got, it looks like a type of vinyl. Not vinyl, excuse me. It looks like a type of canvas. This is a type of canvas material right here. This is another type of upholstery material over here. This stuff right here is upholstery material. So I've got quite a wide selection of other materials. I accomplished what I wanted to do, and that was put this machine to the test after making it sew through a lot of marine vinyl, a crazy amount, probably about 3 millimeters thick. So now we're going to sew off on some of this other material that I've got prepared. So if anyone has a preference, maybe if Joan or Katie want to see something, maybe try the leather, the nylon, the denim, upholstery material. We've got more vinyl. We've got polyester that made to look like fleece. We've got some really, really light satin material over here, this real light shaded one. So if anyone has input on what they want to see, either Katie and Joan or anyone else in the live stream, just say, hey, let's give the leather a try. Let's give the nylon a try. Let's sew some more vinyl. Let's sew some upholstery material. Let's do some of that nasty black
outdoor material that gave that other machine so much of a challenge. Let's see how Joan's machine does with that outdoor material, this black stuff right here. Or maybe you want to go on the light side, try some satin. We've got satin, we've got a fake fleece material as well. So any of those are options for the next sew-offs as we wrap this live stream up eventually in showcasing this universal Japanese style machine. I'm going to add all my other sew-offs off camera as well that I did on this Schmetz needle. Schmetz needles are incredibly long-lasting. You can beat them out of, beat them to death basically, and they keep on going and going and going. All right, let me check something. I just got a text message. Oh, unrelated. Okay. So while you all are deciding, okay, it looks like Susie said leather. Oh, did we miss saying hi to somebody? Teresa's talking about John. I think I said hello to John. But if I missed John, hello to John. Okay, canvas material. Looks like Katie's chiming in with canvas. Also looks like Sarah Stitches just joined us as well. Great to have Sarah here. So outdoor canvas material. Let me see what I have in the realm of canvas. I've got a couple of different flavors of that. I've got this black stuff that is notoriously a nightmare to sew. Maybe we can sew some of that. What else do I have? Do I have some other canvas over here? I've got some of this green canvas as well. So we can try some of this. Why don't we try some of this black canvas to begin with? I think this is a canvas material anyway. It's going to be a canvas, maybe a canvas nylon blend, but it's an outdoor umbrella type material, and it's used for applications outside. So it's got to be UV protected. You probably could even make deck cushions out of something like this as well. So we'll try this first. How many layers of this should I do, I wonder? Maybe I'll do 4 layers, huh? Got 2 layers. I could do 4. I could even try 6 layers. Might be a little bit too much on this material because it's incredibly difficult. Yeah, I know Sarah's not new. I wasn't saying that Sarah Stitches was new. I was saying that John might be new. Maybe John is new. The one that Teresa said. Teresa was saying something about missing saying hello to somebody. So I think that I was referring to John, not Sarah. I've seen Sarah in the live streams before, so I know that Sarah is a regular now. Sarah's a regular now. So I'm deciding if I'm going to do 4 layers or 6 layers of this. What do y'all think? You got any opinion? Okay, I did say hello to John. Good. Glad to hear it. Cool. All right. So chime in, y'all. Chime in. What do you think? Should we try 4 layers of this and then maybe fold it over again and then do 6 layers? Or should we go right for 6 layers? This again is like it looks like a canvas nylon type material. Probably it's Emma that sent this from Florida with that 328K, I believe it was, said that this was an outdoor material used probably for gardening applications and other things like that. But if no one's chiming in right now, then I am going to make a command decision. And I'll start with 4 layers and then decide if I'm crazy enough to do 6. So I'm going to get this into position. We'll see if we can buzz down and do 4 layers, which in and of itself is not going to be easy. It's not going to be an easy task. Get that down. I don't know if you can see that from the side or not, but 4 layers of this outdoor material is incredibly thick, incredibly thick. Let's see if we can take a look at this even closer. Down at the needle. So we're going to try 4 layers, and then depending on the outcome, we may step it up to 6. Hopefully we are successful with 4 layers, because this stuff is probably almost as worse off as the marine vinyl. Almost as worse off. All right, so let's give this a go, and then we'll go from there. All right? See if I can do a better job of holding onto this thread this time. All right, here we go. Oh, take-up arm. Did not get that take-up arm all the way up. There we go. Now I've got the take-up arm to the highest position. I'll try to hold onto this thread a little bit more firmly this time. All right. I think I did a good job of holding the thread that time. I hope I did. I hope. Yeah, I did. Hey, look at me. See, that's how it's supposed to look. When you don't do when you hold that thread really, really firm at that initial launch, then you don't get that bird nesting thing on the bottom. You don't get that bird nesting thing. So that's the way it's supposed to look. So that's 4 layers of this outdoor material. It's going to be like a canvas. It's going to be probably have a little bit of vinyl running through it as well, I would guess, but it's going to be a tough material for us to get through. And this Universal just attacked it. It literally attacked it. Okay, so that's our top stitching. I'm going to show you that first, and then we'll move over to the lock stitching on the back. This is our top stitching. Bring my camera up a little bit. You know what? For such a tough material, you might remember some of the other machines that I've sewn this material on have given that machine so much trouble, and we struggled a lot. We struggled a lot with maintaining stitch quality using this outdoor material. Look at those stitches on this outdoor material. It's going to be some sort of a canvas. It's probably got nylon in it as well. The recipe for disaster when you're sewing with a machine like this. The recipe for a disaster. And yet we've got stitching that is just off the charts. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. Let's look at it vertically as well if we can. We'll look at that top stitching vertically, see if we can get a good angle on that. Maybe like this if I pull it apart a little bit. Those are stunning. I agree with Susie. Those are absolutely drop dead gorgeous stitches. And you know what? You're dealing with a material that is a recipe for disaster. It's an absolute recipe for disaster when you're talking about a material like this that's designed for the outdoors, and it's got a combination of canvas, vinyl running through it like some of those other upholstery materials, and yet we delivered stitches that are absolutely spectacular. They're absolutely gorgeous. Now, how did we do on the backside? You saw that I didn't get a bird nest this time because I did a better job of holding that thread really rigid at the launch. It's only at the launch. Once you get that machine sewing and it gets its first stitches down, as long as you've held onto that thread, you get a result like this on the back where there's no bird nesting. No bird nesting at all, like we had on some of those other sew-offs. Plus, you get stitching that looks like this. Let me see if I can get it angled correctly. There we go. Stitching that absolutely is, I mean, it takes your breath away. It's so gorgeous on such a difficult material to sew. And again, we haven't made any tension adjustments. If we wanted to make this lock stitch on the bottom even more defined, what would we do? If you're getting a lock stitch on the bottom that you think is a little bit less defined than you want it, what adjustment do you make on the sewing machine to make the stitching on the bottom like this more poppy? What do you adjust? Susie is the only one in the classroom that I think is paying attention today, because she's the one that's primarily responding. I need to get some of you other folks involved so you can get involved in the discussion as well. Susie's absolutely right. If you're trying to define the lock stitching more on the bottom, if you don't think it's defined enough, then you need to increase the upper tension. You need to increase the upper tension so that it defines that stitch more by pulling up on the thread. Remember, the upper tension, this right here, the upper tension is going to be pulling up to define the lock stitching on the bottom. The bobbin case down below, down here, is going to be pulling down to define the top stitching. This stitching right here we're looking at right here. So they're in a constant tug of war. This one is pulling down, this one is pulling up, and they're pulling back and forth like this against each other. Okay? They're pulling back and forth against each other. And that tug of war has to end in friendship so that you get stitching like this on the top, and you get stitching like this that's on the bottom. Okay? And I see there's a discussion going right now about vibrating shuttles. It must be about a machine that John has, but it doesn't really relate to our Japanese machine right now. So I would invite our friends that are talking about the vibrating shuttle to kind of join the class a little bit and kind of focus back on our machine that has an oscillating hook system. Now, if you're chatting about another machine that has an oscillating hook system, then I think you're right on target talking about a topic that relates to our live stream. But let's not get too far off track. And I say that with a big smile. Let's not get too far off track talking about things that don't relate to the live stream, because our live streams are about honoring the owner and that machine. And our machine today is a Japanese clone machine from the 1950s that has an oscillating hook system. Okay. So let's zero in on that if that's okay. And let's give the attention to the machine that it deserves, having come from a point where it wasn't sewing really, really well. And now it's back to a point where it's sewing incredibly well again. So, and that way we're giving the proper attention in the proper direction. I hope that makes sense. But again, the tug of war has to end in friendship. So if we're looking at stitching like this, and we're looking at stitching like this through this real tricky material, then we're having success. Now, our next attempt could be, we've got 4 layers of this. Dare we try 6 layers of this outdoor material that looks like it's a canvas vinyl material, or is that going to be pushing this Japanese clone machine too far? So if someone wants to chime in and say either let's stop at 4 and consider the deal done, or let's go for 6 and see whether or not we're pushing Joan's machine too far. Because if we can go through 3 layers of marine vinyl and have some great results, maybe somehow we can pull off 6 layers of this outdoor material and maintain stitch quality. I mean, we got some beautiful stitch quality. You can see it right there. We got some beautiful stitch quality. I'm going to have to see what John wrote here. Hold on a second. A type of hook system he is talking about. John, you can talk directly to me. I'm in the live stream, buddy. And My point is that not that you have the same bobbin. There's a lot of round bobbins out there, but we were also on a topic of vibrating shuttles. We were on a topic of vibrating shuttles, which has nothing to do with the machine that I'm presenting. So if you want to defend your position, you can do that. But when we get on the topic of vibrating shuttles, when we're talking about a machine that has a round bobbin and oscillating hook system, I think we're off topic. And I don't want to get into a battle on this, but I do want to give proper respect to the owner and her machine. And if we're going to have discussions, they should relate in some way to the machine that I'm presenting, not vibrating shuttle systems, which have nothing to do with the machine that I'm presenting. I think that's a fair criticism, and I hope you can embrace it in the right spirit that it's given. Just as if you sent a machine to the workshop, John, and it were a vibrating shuttle machine, and everybody was talking about a Japanese oscillating hook system, you might feel they were off topic a little bit as well. I hope you get my point. And I love the sidebar discussions. I love it when people are I love it when people are discussing things that relate to the topic at hand and maybe even a little bit outside of those boundaries. But at the same time, I don't want to go too far away from our focal point right now. Okay. I think his needle is in wrong, my opinion. Okay. Sarah, talk more about the needle. Talk more about the needle that's in the wrong position, producing stitching. Like this. Because if a needle's in the wrong position, the hook is not going to be able to grab the thread in the scarf. If you don't understand that about sewing machines, the position of the flat side needs to be directed so that the hook system can grab the thread in the scarf of the needle, which is adjacent to the eye of the needle. If the needle is positioned wrong, you're not going to get this stitching. You're going to get a garbled mess because the hook will not be able to grab the thread when it swings around. And you're going to get distorted stitching. You're going to get skip stitching. You're going to get all kinds of a mess. You're not going to get stitching like this, particularly on a very, very challenging material like this outdoor material. So I would love Sarah Stitches to talk more about why she feels the needle is in the wrong position, but producing stitching that is spectacular, which, by the way, is an impossibility. Yeah. And if John's having issues with his vibrating shuttle, I recently presented a vibrating shuttle machine on this channel. It was the one that belonged to, what is her name? Jessica, in the Twin Cities area. Remember her great grandmother's machine, the Model 27? The Model 27 that I just presented was a vibrating shuttle system. So you can, John, go to one of the last live streams that I did, and you can look at the Model 27 that I presented that has a vibrating shuttle system. I talk about the setup of the shuttle. I show you how to thread the shuttle, and I show you a number of other things on that machine that I think would be helpful if you have a similar vibrating shuttle machine. I have no idea what John Peters is talking about right now. The needle has the thread going in from the front to the rear. If you're talking about this machine, the thread has the threading going from left to right. The threading on this machine is from left to right, like I said when I walked you through the machine. So I'm lost. Johnny, you're losing me. Maybe I'm slow today. Maybe I need to have more Diet Coke. But the needle on this machine, you may be referring to another machine because I'm not following your conversation. But the needle on this Japanese universal machine is threaded from left to right with the flat side of the needle going towards the pillar. Okay. So let's stay focused on this Japanese universal machine. If you want to bring up other machines that have a similar setup to this, maybe the Class 15 Singer machine, I think that would be cool. I think it'd be great. That's why I showed you this Class 15 over here made by Singer, that this machine was modeled after. This machine would have been modeled after a machine like this. So we've got oscillating hook systems that are shared. We've got similar threading systems. Threading upper tensions are very similar. The machines are nearly identical in every respect, with a few extra enhancements that the Japanese added to this Class 15 universal machine. But I think we need to stay away from topics that are totally unrelated, just so that we're not focusing on areas that don't relate to the machine we're presenting. You would want the same thing if we were presenting your machine. I know you would. Okay. I'm gonna move on because John is still, now he's talking about a chrome cover. Okay. I'm gonna keep moving forward, no offense, and go through some additional sew-offs. I've explained the setup of this machine, which is going to be very similar to other Japanese machines. It's going to be very similar to other Class 15 machines made by Singer and other companies. We just got done sewing this outdoor material. We went through 4 layers of it. I'm going to bump this up to 6 and see if we can maintain stitch quality. Okay. And if Sarah and John want to continue on a sidebar discussion, I'll leave it up to the leadership team to keep them on topic and hopefully not taking us down rabbit holes that are going to take us away from the focus of the machine that I'm presenting for Joan, Katie, and their family. Because this live stream is about them. It's not about vibrating shuttle machines. It's not about machines that are dissimilar. Okay. And if John wants to, yeah, okay. I've said enough. I'll leave it to the leadership team to manage the conversation from this point forward. And unless I get a text message from somebody, I'm going to pretty much ignore what's happening in the live stream. I'll let the leaders steer the family and keep us on topic. Okay. I think that's the right thing to do. But if anyone has questions, John, Sarah, anyone at all, about things that don't relate to the machine we're presenting, you can always reach out. You can contact me. Susie posts the information regularly. You can send me a text. You can send me an email. You can contact me through Facebook Messenger, and I'll be glad to try to answer your question. And I might even bring up your question in a future live stream where we're dealing with a machine that's having a similar situation or a similar setup. So, all right, so let's bump this up to from 4 layers to 6 layers now and see if we can maintain stitch quality. I hope we can. This is really kind of pushing this machine further than I planned to do, but that's okay. We'll give it a try. We're either going to have the agony of defeat or we're going to have the victory of success. We'll see. So we've got 4 layers. We're going up to 6 layers of this outdoor canvas vinyl type material. And to give you an idea of what 6 layers looks like, it looks like this. You can see that in the shot. It's kind of dark, I know, but that's what 6 layers of this vinyl canvas type material looks like. This is a tricky sew off. It's a very tricky sew off. We will give it a try. All right. So I folded it over. We got 6 layers now. Get that into position and see if we can pull this off. I don't know if we can or not. I didn't try it off camera. We're even going to be a little bit close to the presser foot clearance with 6 layers of this outdoor style material. It's going to be really, really close, which means when you get really tight when you get super tight underneath the pressure foot like that, it's going to affect our feed of the material. It's going to affect the feed of our material, which means we might get a shorter stitch because it's not feeding as evenly as when the material is not encroaching against the feed dogs and the presser foot. Now, remember, on these Japanese machines, with that enhancement that they came up with of being able to release the presser foot pressure, I've shown that to you numerous times, you can actually push this presser foot up higher than it would normally go. I've shown that to you when you release it like this. See if I can show it to you again. When you release it like this, I just popped it up by pushing that little tab on the side. Right now, we've got no presser foot pressure, but it also means that we can push this up beyond its normal range. You see right now, this is in the normal position. You can also push it up even higher. Push it up even higher and get a little bit of added clearance. Not much, but a little bit. But I'm going to need all the presser foot pressure I can get in pushing that material underneath that presser foot and those feed dogs. So I'm going to increase that presser foot pressure all the way to the max, and we'll see if we can make it through these 6 layers of this outdoor material. We'll see how we do. Okay? Let me angle that down. And again, look at the stitches we already got from 4 layers. That by itself, in my opinion, is impressive. So we'll see if we can make it through. Kathy King says, like butter, we'll see. Hopefully. Yeah, I think it is genius. I really do. So I went ahead and pushed this back down. We had released it. Now we're going to push it back down. And we could go lighter, but we're going to need all the pressure we can get. So I'm going to go all the way down to the max. But again, if we shift over to some of this satin, we're going to have to lighten up that presser foot pressure quite a bit to get the proper feed with that delicate light material, right? So I'm going to see if I can do a good job of holding this thread again. I hope I can. I can hold that material nice and firm, hold that thread nice and firm. We should get another good clean launch on the bottom, I hope. So I'm going to kind of pull on it a little bit and get that take-up arm all the way up. All right, 6 layers of this outdoor material. Hopefully we are successful, but I did not try this yet, so we'll see what happens. All right, here we go. See, we just hit the needle against that 6 layers of outdoor material, and the motor overspun, and we got no traction. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a boost with the balance wheel, and we'll see if we get this machine running through these 6 layers. Here we go. I'm looking at a beautiful, beautiful top stitch. I hope we were able to maintain that on the bottom of the material. I hope we were able to maintain that. And it looks like all in all we did. We got some really good looking stitching on the bottom as well. Let me clip the thread, and we'll take a look at this stitching through 6 layers of this canvas type material used for outdoor applications. Emma sent this, so I have no idea where she bought it. I have no idea what the intended purpose of this stuff is, but I'll tell you one thing, it is the thick of thick. Incredibly difficult stuff to get through. So let's see, our stitch row, our top stitch row here is going to be the one we just did. This will be our first one down here. So I'll try to hold them like this, and we'll take a look at those stitches. And then we'll look at that lock stitch on the back. So again, our top row is the second stitch row we did through 6 layers. The bottom row is through 4 layers. There we go. I'll tell you one thing, the initial launch point, I actually like the clarity of the stitch on that top row better than the bottom one. And that was through 2 additional layers of this outdoor material. Let's go across and let you look at them and see what you think. Folks, I don't know how that stitch can be better, Honestly, look at that top row through 6 layers of this outdoor canvas type material. Holy mackerel. Not only that, with bumping our pressure foot pressure to the max, we were actually able to maintain the integrity of the stitch as far as the clarity and the size of it. It wasn't reduced. It wasn't compressed. Let's look at it like this as well. So over on this side is going to be our second sew off. The one on the other side is going to be our first sew off. So this is our 6 layers. This is our 4 layers over here. Let's take a look at it. I'm impressed. I'm impressed as far as what I'm seeing on that stitching. That is absolutely spectacular. And it's possible that Joan and Katie might decide to use a canvas type material for their boat deck cushions, right? For their sailboat cushions. At least they know now, and they're never ever, if they're making deck cushions, they're never going to be going through 6 layers of a canvas material like this. But isn't it great to know that this universal machine that's been with their family for about 45 years is able to get the job done? It just needed a little bit of a boost because that motor kicks up with so much. It kicks up with so much torque. It overspins the belt even though I've got that belt adjusted properly. It's got so much torque. It just overpowers the belt, doesn't it? It just overpowers the belt and goes zing. So a little bit of a hand start would be a beneficial thing using this type of motor on this type of machine. Amazing stitching, absolutely amazing stitching. Let me come out a little bit and let you look at both rows of that. The top row again is going to be our 6 layers. The bottom row is going to be our 4 layers. I like the top row even better. And we went through 2 additional layers of this canvas material. And again, if you're curious what it looks like from the side, that's what it looks like from the side right there. That's a lot of canvas material right there. And to get stitching like that, are you kidding me? Now, what about our lock stitch? How do we do there? Through all of this canvas material that you can see right there. How did we do? Well, let's take a look. This is our lock stitch right here. Through 6 layers of this canvas outdoor type material. See if I can pull it back a little bit and give us even a clearer view of it. Those are what we refer to in our setting here as page 34 plus stitches. That lock stitch is absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. Let's go across and look at them. That's our lock stitch right there through all of this material. Got a little bit of an odd thing with that stitch right. Where is it? I have to do it backwards in my head. A little bit of an odd thing going on with that stitch. Where is it? Right in the center of the screen right there. It's got like a little bit of a debris or a little bit of a fluff underneath it, doesn't it? See if I can get it with my finger. You have to think backwards when you're looking at the camera. It's really awkward, isn't it? Some sort of a little debris there, but at any rate, that the stitching on the back of this 6 layers of canvas is just off the charts. Absolutely off the charts. Gorgeous, gorgeous stitching. You can look at it like this as well, maybe. One of the most difficult sew-offs on a material like this that's designed with this canvas vinyl type blend, incredibly difficult to stitch through, And yet Joan's machine did a spectacular job through the 4 layers and even did better through the 6 layers. So a definite success. I'm going to add this to the pile, and I'm going to move into some other sew-offs as well. Because of some of our sidebar issues, we're running longer than I wanted to run. We're running a little bit longer than I wanted to run. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take control a little bit. I think we'll do there was a request for leather a while ago. We'll see if we can buzz down some of this genuine cowhide leather. It's only a single layer, probably about 3 ounces of leather, but it's leather. And we're not sewing with a leather needle. We're sewing with a needle that is designed for woven materials. It's got a slightly rounded point. It's a universal style needle, which is not the ideal needle to be using on leather, but we're going to give it a try and see how we do. We'll give it a try and see how we do. So this is genuine cowhide. We'll buzz down some genuine cowhide. See if I can do a good job of holding onto that thread again. Get our take-up arm to the highest position. You can see right now our take-up arm is down a little bit. Let's see if I can draw it all the way to the top. So it's just on that downstroke. See that? Just on that downstroke. The other thing I did not discuss in this live stream, but I've done it before, is when you're looking at these Class 15s, whether it's the American version over here or whether it's this Japanese version of this Class 15, you'll notice that the upper tension unit is on the faceplate area. We've covered this before, but if anyone wants to speak to why was the tension moved from its traditional place on the front to the side? Why did they move it? Why was the tension unit moved from here, where it typically is seen on most and Singer type machines, to being moved over to here? Why did they do that? What was the purpose in moving the upper tension unit to the faceplate? The second part of that question that I want to throw at you is there's an adjusting screw on the back of this upper tension unit. I'll try to show it to you as best as I can. There's an adjusting screw right here. You can see that in the shot. I'm going to shut off this extra light real quick. There's an adjusting screw right here. What does that do? What is the purpose of this adjusting screw? And why did they move this tension unit from a traditional position on the front to the faceplate area of the machine? I know many of you probably know the answer to this. Some of you know the answer. Kathy is saying, I have no idea. I enjoy Kathy King so much in the live streams because number one, she's engaged. She's engaged in the discussion. She's honest. She's honest, isn't she? I love that. Kathy recognizes that she's still a student, just like I am. And she's able to learn and willing to learn and excited to learn. That makes for a great person to be in the live stream. Don't you agree? And Kathy King is not the only person that's engaged. I'm not implying that, but I'm pointing at Kathy because she wrote, I have no idea. Yeah, it's not so much having a view of the needle. That's a great answer, Susie. That's a great, great, great answer. It's not so much having a view of the needle as it is a view of what the needle is doing as far as the stitching. It gives you an earlier view of the stitching being laid down on the material. Very much like the slant needle that Singer came up with, also works towards the same objective of giving the sewist an earlier view of what's happening with the stitching. And let's just face it, if this is on the front of the machine, it's going to be distracting, isn't it? It's going to obscure your view, your direct view, your line of sight a little bit to that needle as well, isn't it? So Susie is spot on with her answer. It's got to give you a little bit better view, a little bit better vision, and a little bit better clarity of seeing what's happening with the stitching earlier on. So Susie's writing, as far as that screw I pointed out, does it have to do with something to do with the thickness of the thread? Possibly. Possibly it could have to do with the type of thread that you're using, the thickness of it, the style of the thread. If I loosen that screw, is something going to move on the upper tension? If I loosen the screw that's on the side of here, is something going to move, or is something going to become adjustable on the upper tension unit? If so, what? What does that screw potentially allow you to adjust? The screw that's on the back side, I showed it to you right here. It's on the side of the upper tension facing towards the back of the machine. No one's chiming in. That's okay. So it doesn't adjust the discs, but that's a great answer. Does it have some sort of impact on the tension discs? The answer is no, not directly. What it adjusts is this take-up spring right there. The take-up spring that goes up and down in the sewing process. It's going to allow you to swivel it further down to give a larger range of motion, or it's going to allow you to swivel it up to reduce the range of motion. Why would you do that? Well, you would do that because you want more pull if you increase the range of motion to ensure that that lock stitch on the bottom of the material is receiving the proper pull to define it properly. In other words, if you lower the platform so that that take-up spring has a wider spring movement, then you're going to be defining that lock stitch with greater clarity. If you're sewing with a real fragile thread, maybe a real light thread made out of silk or some other material, something that's fragile, then you would reduce by swiveling that up to reduce the range of motion so that it's not putting too much pressure on that thread and causing that thread to break repeatedly. And that's what will happen if that take-up spring is adjusted like it is right now for a wider range of motion. It's going to put a lot more tension on that thread and be more likely to break a more fragile thread. So it's important you know that that screw is back there if you're using a more delicate thread for certain applique work or free motion quilting, maybe some sort of an ornamental, decorative type thread that's a little bit more fragile. Can anyone think of any examples of a more fragile thread? I've used it on this channel before. There's a real fragile thread. I told you that I hated this stuff because it kept breaking. It kept breaking and kept breaking and kept breaking over and over again. And we had to adjust the take-up spring so it was barely moving so that it wouldn't keep breaking the thread. We also had to adjust the bobbin case as well so that it wasn't pulling down so hard and it was continuing to break that real fragile thread as well. It wasn't a nylon thread. Nylon thread is actually pretty doggone strong. Like a lot of silk threads are also surprisingly strong. We'll come back to that. But it's important you know how to adjust that screw so that depending on the type of thread you're working with, you're not going to be utterly exasperated. Yeah, I better drink something. You're not going to be utterly exasperated by that thread breaking continuously. Pure cotton can be very fragile too. Yeah, John is spot on. Certain types of cotton thread, they can be very delicate. And if you're sewing with a cotton thread on a machine like this, you're going to want to know how to use that screw adjustment to adjust the range of motion on that take-up or that check spring, as some people refer to it. You got to be real careful. All right, let's move forward on this leather, and then we'll circle back maybe to some more thread types. So I'm going to do my best to hold onto this thread. We got our take-up arm in the right spot. We'll see if we can launch into this. I'm going to check my tension on the belt. Could be a little bit tighter, but I'm going to leave it where it is, and we'll see if we can get into this leather and get a good solid launch up in the right spot. See if I can get a good grip on that thread. I'm actually going to wrap it around. And when you're holding this thread, you're actually kind of pulling a little bit. You're kind of pushing the thread to the rear to avoid that bird nesting. You're not just holding onto it lightly, you're actually putting a little bit of tension on that thread to try to avoid that bird nesting on the bottom. And, most cases you'll be successful. Sometimes you won't be. You saw me not have success a couple of times as I was trying to get a good launch, a proper launch, and avoid that bird nesting. So don't get frustrated. If it happens to you, it happened to me too. All right. All right. Let's give it a go. Adjust the camera a little bit more, get us a little bit closer to the action, and see if we can have success using this universal Schmetz needle. It's a 9014. Sew this genuine cowhide. Okay. We'll see how we do. All right. Here we go. Bring our needle all the way up. Yeah, I'm liking that stitching. Looks like we got some good stitching on the back. Looks like I did a better job than I've been doing in holding that thread kind of taut for the first couple of stitches, so we didn't get any of that bird nesting. Let's take a look at these stitches on this leather and see what you think of this. And again, it would not be Schmetz preference that we're using a universal needle to sew leather, but a universal needle is able to do it. But a leather needle could probably do it that much better, right? A leather needle could do it that much better. So it's kind of like when we were sewing that marine vinyl stuff. There is a needle that Schmetz recommends. There is a needle that Schmetz recommends for sewing marine vinyl and other types of vinyl. We're not using it, but it certainly is available, like I showed you at Joanne's. All right, let's take a look at this stitching. See what we think. Let's take a look at this stitching. So 100% genuine cowhide. Kind of go across. And again, if you see occasionally a little bit of a tilting of a stitch, that is a tension factor. We haven't made any adjustments to the tension through this live stream. So if you see an occasional little tilt of the stitch, it's a tension factor coupled with the fact that we're using a needle that does not have a sharp pointed end that can cut through that leather more effectively and port a hole that will allow that thread to maintain proper alignment. We lose a little bit of alignment by using a universal needle instead of using a leather needle that would have that really sharp point that would basically slice through the leather and allow that stitching to be even better aligned than it is. But all in all, we're doing really well using a universal needle, but we could always make it better, right? We could always make it better. Let's go across and look at these. So what I'm seeing is I'm seeing some really good looking stitching. I'm going to see if I can do it like that. I'm seeing some really good stitching, but we can make it better by using a leather needle and also potentially backing off that upper tension just a little bit so that that bobbin case is able to pull down harder and define that top stitch even better. Define that top stitch even better. But all in all, considering our setup, we're getting some good looking stitching, but we could always make it better. And that's really the goal of these live streams, is to see the success and greatness of a machine, but recognize that we still could get even to a higher plateau of success by adjusting our setup a little bit, right? So a leather needle would improve it, and also a slight tension adjustment to give that top stitch even better clarity and to tighten up that thread a little bit more to give it even better alignment than it has now. But all in all, a good outcome considering the setup we're working with. And again, I stick with the universal needles because the universal needles are going to allow us to sew a wide field of material, And we can celebrate the stitches. I agree with Kathy. I agree with John. I agree with Susie. but we can always make it better. And again, we're sewing through some leather. Look at that. We're sewing through some serious leather. Let's look at the lock stitch. Take a look at that lock stitch on the back. Very nice looking lock stitch. And again, because we're pulling up a little bit harder with that upper tension, and we have that check spring adjusted so it's going full range of motion. It's going full range of motion right now, really, really pulling hard on that thread to define the lock stitch. We've got some really good clarity on that lock stitch as well. Really, really good clarity. Maybe almost a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Maybe almost a little bit too much clarity and definition, because that upper tension is pulling maybe a little bit harder than it needs to do, which is taking away from our top stitch as well, isn't it? So a really good looking lock stitching through this leather. Very good looking top stitching as well. And well, thank you, Joan. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you enjoyed being a part of the live stream. You've got a great machine here, and I know that Katie and you will have a lot of fun with it. And if I end up going back to Joanne's before we meet tomorrow, I'll see if I can grab some of those needles for you. The needles that are designed specifically for marine type vinyl material, and then you'll be all set up and we can square up as if there's any difference in cost. But it's great to have Joan here. It was great to have Katie as well. And we'll continue to march forward with this universal. And I'll plan on meeting Joan tomorrow. I think it's around 1 o'clock. We're scheduled to meet so she can get this machine back and start putting it to work for all kinds of projects. But very pleased with, I'm very pleased with Schmetz needles, but I'm even more pleased with this great machine that's been serving this family for almost a half a century, the one that she rescued. So how cool is that? How cool is that? Yeah, we'll move on from this leather now. And we'll sew some of these other materials before we call it a deal done. Before we call it a deal done. My throat's really dry. All right, a little bit more something to drink, wet my whistle. Let's go to the light side now. We've been sewing some crazy heavy duty stuff, both on camera and off camera, all of this stuff on this, as Susie pointed out, this tiring needle. Now we're going to move forward with something on the real light side, some of this satin material. We've got this satin material, 2 layers of it. This is some satin that Emma sent with that 328K that came out of Florida that I recently sent back to her friend, Jane. And now we're going to be making a couple of adjustments to be able to hopefully sew this satin material successfully. I'm going to get it underneath the presser foot. I also need to check the phone. I believe I got a text message from Susie, if I'm not mistaken. Check text message real quick. Yeah, I appreciate the reminder, Susie. I did not forget Candido and Rachel's gift. I've got it right at my feet, and I'll call you down shortly. I want to do this light sew off first because we've been focusing on the heavy duty side of this universal machine. I want to also demonstrate that we can pivot and we can sew something incredibly delicate. We can sew something incredibly fragile like a satin or silk, and it only requires one adjustment, hopefully, and that's the presser foot pressure. and then we can pivot over to Candido and Rachel's um, gift that they sent. And I know that Rachel and Candido have to leave sometimes, but they can always rewatch this and celebrate our opening of that gift as well. So I think, yeah, just be patient with me for a second. I want to do this light so off, and then we'll pivot over to that gift that Rachel and Candido sent from New York. Okay? I didn't forget. Almost. All right, so we need to adjust the pressure foot pressure. We need to make it a lot lighter than it is now. All right, I'm going to pause that for a second because I don't know if you're able to hear me or not. We need to make this touch of the pressure foot pressure much lighter when we're looking at sewing a satin material like this, even if it has a stiffener in it, which it does. So we're going to take the pressure foot pressure all the way down to 0, like that, by pushing that little tab on the back. So now we're at 0. Right now we have no pressure foot pressure at all. So we need to give it some pressure foot pressure. We're going to go right around to the midpoint on this, maybe a little bit further, right about there. So you can see we've got quite a bit of range left where we could push the pressure foot pressure higher, much, much higher. But we want a lighter touch when we're sewing a more delicate material like satin or silk, much lighter. So we've lightened up the pressure foot pressure, and we're going to try to buzz down this material now. I'll try to do a good job of getting that take-up arm back into the proper position. Right now it's way too low to have a good launch. You can see me raising it, raising it, raising it, raising it. There we go. Much better range now. I'm going to get a good grip on that thread as well. So hopefully I don't get any bird nesting on the bottom of this satin. You have a little bit of a pull on that, a little bit of pull back. And now we're going to try to launch into this satin material that has a real thin layer of stiffener in between those 2 layers of satin. Okay, so let's see how this Japanese universal has demonstrated its grit, its power in going through some very challenging heavy duty sew-offs. Now we're taking it the opposite direction. Can it handle the light side of things with a satin material like this? Let's see. Okay, so here we go. Some satin material. Try to get a real good grip on that thread, a little bit of a pullback tension to the rear so I can hopefully avoid that bird nesting. All right, here we go. You see, once I get that initial launch, I can let go of that thread. I don't have to hold on to it through the whole process. Only initially we hold on to that thread to avoid that bird nesting on the bottom. And it's because of the design of this hook system. This hook system, as an oscillating hook system, like I said earlier, is aggressive about pulling that thread at the launch. And so you have to offset that so that that additional thread that it's pulling doesn't get caught up in the sewing process and get stuck underneath those initial stitches at the beginning of the launch. So we counteract that by holding onto the thread and pulling back just a little bit to the rear. Let's take a look at this stitching now. We're dealing with satin material with just a really almost like a rice paper thin stiffener in between, and we'll see how we maintained stitch quality. This is our top stitching, and on the back side is our lock stitching. Let's look at that top stitching first. So our top stitching on this satin material, see how we did? And you can see with a 90-14 needle. Wait a second, do I have this facing the wrong way? I bet you I have this facing the wrong way. Maybe not. No, that's correct. I think it's correct. Let me double check. Yeah, that's our top stitching. I was just noticing that when you're dealing with a satin or a silk, if you're using a size 90-14 needle, you're going to be able to see that puncture hole evident through the material, we should be using a much smaller needle, like a size 70 or maybe a 7511 needle to go through satin or silk. We're using a 9014. It's a little bit too big for the job, isn't it? So you'll see some of the evidence of that puncture hole in conjunction with the stitching. See if I can go across here and show the stitching now. Still wondering if I have this backwards. Anyway, we'll look at both sides of it in any case. We'll look at both sides of it. So we can get a little bit closer now. Yeah, I think we're looking at the lock stitch right now. I think I flipped it somehow. We'll see. But we got some really, really good looking stitching regardless. Really, really good looking stitching. I'll see if I can walk this up a little bit. But look at the size of that hole. It's like using a bazooka. It's like using a bazooka on this satin material. Not the ideal needle to be using on this, is it? It's not the ideal needle. Too big for the job. But some really, really good looking stitching nonetheless. So we'll turn it over. I'll show it to you one more time. We'll kind of go down the line of stitching, and then we'll look at the other side. And again, I might have this flipped around. I question whether I'm showing you the lock stitch or the top stitch. I believe it's the top stitch, but I may have it flipped around. But some very, very good looking stitching on this satin material. Very, very lightweight, delicate type sew off compared to what we've done up to this point. Let's turn it around. Finally, we'll look at the other side. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had it orientated correctly. This is now our lock stitching. See if we get the camera to zoom in on that. Yeah, that hole is almost distracting, isn't it? You kind of like, hey, look at the hole behind there. But some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Kind of if I turn it to the side a little bit, sometimes it's easier to see the quality of that stitching with the bright LED lights. You can kind of catch a glimpse of that as I'm rotating it like this as well. They really are lovely stitches. They're a little bit harder to see on a light material like this. Plus, with those LED lights, it's creating a lot of sheen across that material as well, isn't it? It's hard to see the stitching a little bit with those lights above us. Matter of fact, maybe I'll shut that one off just temporarily. Not sure if the camera's going to be able to focus on that now. I think it needs that light, even though it doesn't like the light. Yeah. Lighting is such a challenge when you're doing a live stream like this. It truly, truly is. If I can turn that around again and show you the stitching from this angle as well. White thread against that light satin makes it a little bit difficult, but hopefully you can see some of that clarity of the stitch. It really is quite a lovely stitch on this incredibly light sew off. Very, very light sew off. So beautiful stitching, top stitching, lock stitching. Whether I had it facing the wrong way or not, we've looked at both sides. Clarity of stitch is great. The way the stitch presents, when you look at it this angle and I'm getting the lighting properly, you can see just how beautiful that stitching is on this very delicate satin material. If I get the right angle so you can see it without that light glaring and kind of washing it out. Same thing on the other side. If I can get the right angle, kind of turn it this way. If I get the right angle, you can catch a glimpse of that stitching with and really, really see the clarity of that stitching. If I get the angle right, there's the right angle right there, kind of going across like that. All right, I won't belabor it anymore, but it's a beautiful stitch on this satin as well. And I'll send this with the machine so Joan can look at them close when she picks up that machine tomorrow. But beautiful stitching. We've already shown the heavy duty side of this machine, and now we've demonstrated the light side of it as well with this satin too. Now the camera's going, I don't know where to focus. I don't know where to focus anymore. This poor camera is going, I'm really, really confused. Hopefully it'll be less confused in a little bit. There we go. All right, another text message. Let me take a look at this text message real quick. See if it's relating to what we're doing or something outside of that. I think it's something outside of that. So I'm going to ignore that for right now. So I think we've covered the territory really well. I think I've covered the territory really well in showing you the heavy side of things, the light side of things. But I would be remiss, I think, if we didn't sew on a little bit more vinyl. This is another type of vinyl here, this black stuff that Emma sent with that 328K. I'll see if I can buzz down this vinyl. 2 layers of it is what I cut, partly because it's quite a bit thicker. You can see that from the side. This is quite a bit thicker than some of the other vinyl that's out there. This isn't necessarily a marine vinyl, but it's definitely a vinyl. Camera's kind of focusing in on that now. I'm guessing this is probably between 3 to 5 millimeters thick. So I'm going to see if we can go down this and lay down some stitching, and then I'll leave it up to all of you. We can wrap things up, which I'm totally happy to do. The owner's already had to step away because she has other obligations, which I totally understand. We do have other sew-offs we could do beyond this vinyl. We've got this 100% nylon stuff that's incredibly sheer. We've got denim. We've got an upholstery type of material. We've got another type of vinyl, it looks like maybe, or a canvas. I think this is more of a canvas material. We have cotton. We've got more upholstery material. We've got this fake fleece material. I always try to prepare a lot of sew-off options so that people can say, holy mackerel, I didn't know that machine could handle all of those materials. So that's always the goal, is to really raise people's expectations and to educate them on the capabilities of what a Japanese universal like this, properly serviced and given some workshop magic, is able to handle, is capable of handling. And we've already demonstrated that in all of these sew-offs over here, on camera off. It just blows people's mind to see, yeah, it can handle all of this and even more. And it also blows people's minds that we can beat up a Schmetz needle that much and it's still laying down gorgeous stitching after all of this work that I've already run it through on camera and also off camera as well. You know, you already know that I'm a strong proponent of Schmetz needles. I think they're the best. I think they're the best in the world. And if any other manufacturer wants to send me some samples of their needles, kind of like the ones I demonstrated on behalf of Walmart, the Hello Hobby needles, I'm more than willing to try them out and see how they do. But at this point in time, Schmetz needles, for me, receives the highest marks for any kind of sewing you're doing. They generally do a very, very good job. So let's try out this this vinyl material and see how this universal does on this. This stuff's a little bit more dense. It's a little bit more rigid. It's a little bit more dense, a little bit more rigid. It's incredibly thick with these 2 layers. So we'll see if we can get through it. We might have to give it a little bit of a hand boost. And if we do, that's okay. We'll see. Let me get this into position, and we'll try going down this type of vinyl material. All right, presser foot is down. The adjustment I need to remember to do real quick, is we just got done sewing satin, right? We just got done sewing satin, so we had backed off the presser foot pressure by almost 50%. We need to go back to heavy duty again, right? We're going to be sewing 2 layers of this really, really heavy grade vinyl. We need to bump this back up. So I'm going to push it all the way down to the max so that we've got the proper feed for a material like this stuff. This stuff needs a lot of pressure pushing down to try to maintain that stitch definition and quality. We also need to move our take-up arm back up into the launching position so that we're ready to get a proper and a smooth launch, right? We want a proper and a smooth launch. There we go. Now we're in the right position. See that? So let's angle that camera back down so you can see the material. And hopefully we get a great launch. And hopefully I do a good job like I've been doing for the last sew-offs. I'm not only holding onto this thread, but I'm also pulling back just a little bit at the launch point so that we hopefully don't get any of that bird nesting. I'm going to make one quick adjustment. Move this over just a little bit. Over just a little bit. Check my take-up arm position again. It looks like we're good to go. All right, let's see if we can launch into this heavy-duty vinyl, and we'll see how our Japanese Universal does against this stuff. It did really well with the other marine vinyl, 3 layers of that. We only have 2 layers here, but this is a little bit more dense, a little bit more thick. So let's keep our fingers and toes crossed, and here we go. Take it nice and slow, nice and slow. I keep wanting to give it a lot of gas, and with this type of motor, you've got to ratchet that speed back a little bit or you get too much overspin, right? You get too much overspin. So let's see how we did on this vinyl. And if you think vinyl is easy to sew with a setup like I have right now with this Coats & Clark XP thread coupled with a universal Schmetz needle, give it a go. Give it a go and see how easy it is. It's a lot more challenging than you might think. It's a lot more challenging. All right. I'm going to try to not get disoriented this time. I'm going to leave the sew off alone and then pick it up straight away and bring it to the camera so I don't go, wait, is that the lock stitch or the top stitch? So, all right. Another quick swig of Diet Coke, and then we're going to move forward. All right. So this is our top stitch. I know this. I know this. I know this. I know this. It's our top stitch. All right. Let's get it up to the camera, and then I'll show you again how thick this stuff is. Come on, camera. You can do it. We're almost done. We're almost done. Again, we haven't made any tension adjustments during this live stream. No tension adjustments. And look at the clarity of that stitch. We can always make it better, but look at how beautiful that stitch is through this much vinyl. Look at that stuff. Look at that. That's insane. Let me see if I can hold it like this again and show you. Look at that. If you don't think that's a tough sew off, send me a video and I'll put it up on Facebook. If you think that's easy peasy, do a video of your Japanese clone machine sewing this with a level of ease, with a clarity of stitch that you see right there. And I'll post it on Facebook and I'll give you a high five. That is incredibly difficult. Let's look at it like this as well. This again is our top stitching. Go like this, get even closer. I'm going to push the camera a little bit. Can always make it better, but that is an absolutely gorgeous stitch through a very, very difficult sew off, a very, very difficult sew off. So there's our top stitching. Pretty doggone awesome, I think. Pretty doggone awesome. And this might be the type of vinyl material or similar to it that Katie and Joan might use to make those deck cushions. I don't know. But now they know, holy mackerel, our machine can do that much vinyl and maintain stitch quality like that. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. I'm coming out, going in. Give the camera a little break here. Absolutely insane. Come on, camera. You're not off duty yet, buddy. You're not off duty yet. There's DeWalt. Oh, come on, come on, come on, come on. There you go. So beautiful top stitching. How did we do on the lock stitch? I already told you the lock stitch is tougher to do well because it's got that needle has to sweep down through this thick vinyl and pull that thread back up. How did we do? You know what? All in all, really, really well. Let's go across and look at them. Again, we could always do better, and we could use that vinyl needle that Schmetz has, couldn't we? We could use that specific vinyl needle that has a non-stick surface to it. But all in all, with a very tiring Schmetz needle, I showed you the pile of stuff we've already sewn with this needle. We're getting a really, really good outcome as far as that stitch. Very, very good outcome. Let's look at it like this as well. See if we can look at that. And again, if you see any tilting of stitches, that's a product of tension. We haven't made any tension adjustments. I've just decided to fly by the seat of my pants, and we've maintained some very, very good stitch quality in spite of not making adjustments to the tension. Some very, very good stitch quality. Plus, we're using a universal needle that's, it's probably sticking to this vinyl a little bit. It's probably sticking to this vinyl. Plus, we're not, it's not the ideal setup. Short and sweet. That's our lock stitching through all of that vinyl. Our top stitching. Come on, camera. There you go. Thank you. Let's maintain that. Maintain it. Here, we'll swivel it around if that makes it easier for you. So 2 layers of crazy thick vinyl. You can see that from the edge right there. Crazy thick vinyl. Beautiful stitching, I think. Top stitching. Lock stitching as well. When that glare, that silly light. Let me hold my hand above here. I'll hold my hand right above the camera. Beautiful stitching throughout. Beautiful stitching throughout. Move my finger. I love doing it like this because then you can look at the thickness of those 2 layers of vinyl and saying, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No. That's what Joan's machine just did. Just did it. All right. So let me move that to the side with all the other sew-offs that have been done on this machine on camera and off. Kind of give you an idea of the totality of what we've gone through. I think this machine is ready to graduate from the workshop. I truly do. I think it's ready to graduate from the workshop. I'm going to put on a little bit more music. I might do a couple more sew-offs for fun, but before that, I've got to call Susie down, and I know it's getting really late. We're almost at 3 hours on this live stream. It's a busy Saturday. I think it's Saturday. Might be Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday, February 17th. Very busy Saturday. People are, devoting their time to be here. They're having to leave, they're having to come, they're having to leave, they're having to come, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So have Susie come down. We'll open up Candido and Rachel's package, see what's in there. I hope it's something to eat. I might do another sew-off, I might not. And then we'll wrap up this live stream. So hopefully Susie is working her way down. And again, if you weren't at the beginning of the live stream, I'll just show you real quick. All the way through President's Day. So that means today, Sunday, and Monday. Joan's around the country is doing a blowout sale on their thread, whether you like Gutermann thread, or whether you like Coates and Clark, or maybe something else. If you buy 3 spools, you're getting 3 free. You buy 3, you get free. You get 3 free. That's hard to say. So anyway, keep that in mind. Pop by Joanne's and pick up some thread. Take advantage of the sale. Oh, I was going to mention one other thing. Susie's down here. Come on over, Susie. Please, please, please. Come on over here. You can start to see Susie a little bit. She's kneeling right now, but she's much taller on TV. You got to give her something to kneel on so she doesn't hurt her knees.
Oh, thank you.
A little pad so Susie can be in the shot as well. I wanted to mention one other thing real quick, and this is not just for the folks that are in the live stream right now, but for others as well. For others as well. I think that's Melissa, isn't it? Glass Gofflin? I think Glass Gofflin is Melissa. Super late, but wanted to say hi. Great to have you here, Melissa. So I wanted to also mention that a gentleman that I send a lot of people to, he's located down in Gridley, Illinois. If you don't know where Gridley, Illinois, you're not alone. I don't either. But Gridley, Illinois is where Guy Baker, for a number of years, number of decades, as far as I know, has been running a sewing machine parts service. He does it for vintage machines, antique machines, contemporary machines. And it looks like from the letter that he sent with a part that I got from him that he's going out of business. He's going out of business, and he's basically saying, we'll be selling off all my inventory. If there is anything you would like to see, Scott, just call or text me. I will probably have it. New, vintage, everything is going to go. That says to me that Guy Baker is going out of business, and it might be retirement, which is great. It's great to get to that threshold of, worked all your life. You worked hard, you had success, and now you're going to retire. So if that's what's happening with Guy, if it's a planned retirement, God bless him. I think that's wonderful. But I'm going to show you on the screen and also ask if one of the leaders would be so kind as to type in Guy's cell phone number. If you'll do that, I would be grateful. I'll show you on the screen, and if one of the leaders would type in his cell phone number, you'll be able to see his address information. You'll be able to see his website. You'll be able to see his email, blah, 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 blah. Please, 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 if you need a part, reach out to Guy Baker. Tell him you're part of the Cow Country family. He will treat you incredibly well because we've sent a ton of business towards Guy over the years, and you'll get what you need before he goes out of business. Someone else scoops it up. So I'm going to show you that on the screen. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. Hold it like this so that one of the leaders can type in his cell phone number. Try to get that nice and centered on there. Come on, camera. We're almost done. Oh, come on, camera. You silly willy camera. It's trying really hard to focus on it. Come on. Almost there. We're so close. Well, if you can't see it, if you can't see it, I'll just read it to you because this camera is apparently very tired at this point. Let me see if this helps. You bring my fingers in so it can focus on my fingers too. I think we almost have it. We're so close. We're so doggone close. I'm trying to help you out here, Guy, and I'm failing. So I'm just going to read it to you. The cell number for Guy is area code 309. Let's see if maybe it'll focus down here. For some reason it's like, no, I don't want to focus that way. I don't want to focus that way, but I'll focus over here. 30, yeah, see that? It's focusing on it this way. What the heck? Isn't that silly? So 309 408 7226. 309 408 7226 is his cell phone number. Guy Baker, a master blaster when it comes to sewing machine parts for new, antique, old, everything in between. I think you can see it now. Look at it. It's doing such a beautiful job of saying, Okay, I'm being good now, Scott. I'm being good. Don't pull my plug. Don't pull my plug. 309-408-7226. If someone would type that in the live chat, 309-408-7226 is Guy's cell phone number. You see it as clear as day, sort of, kind of. His email is guybaker@sewingmachineparts.net. Guybaker at sewingmachineparts.net. Or his website is sewingmachineparts.net. You can see all that on screen. If one of the leaders, Teresa or Jenny, Susie can't do it because she's right next to me. If one of you leaders would please, at a minimum, type in Guy's cell phone number, 309-408-7226. If all of my leaders are making tea or, dancing with their pets or whatever, if they're busy, then if someone else in the live stream would please type in Guy's cell phone number, or I'm going to do it myself, 309-408-7226. Give him a call before he's out of business and get the parts that you need. Again, he covers the full spectrum of pretty much any machine that there's ever been. He's got a warehouse full of parts, and you can take advantage of them. No one's typing, so I'm going to type myself. And then I'm going to shake my finger at my leaders for not helping me out. Doggone it. 309-408-7226. All right, Jenny just did it. God bless you, Jenny. Thank you for doing that, dear. Jenny just did it. Thank you, Jenny. Typed in Guy's cell phone number. And I don't get anything out of this, you guys. I don't get any royalties. I don't get any kickback. I just think Guy's a great guy. Guy is a great guy. I'm really losing it here. Guy's a great guy, and he's done a great job in helping customers from me over the years find some really tough to find parts. So if you can see that information kind of in the camera there somewhere. Yeah, I won't even try rotating it like that because then the camera's going to go, no, I don't want to focus on it that way. I want to focus on it like this, sideways. I'm feeling sideways today, feeling sideways. So contact Guy, and I'm sure he'll be a great help to you in finding that tough to find part. Matter of fact, in one of the last live streams, I believe we had somebody from Germany that was looking for a really tough to find part for a Singer machine. I don't remember what it was. But if they happen to catch this, maybe they can even reach out to Guy. I know that Guy does ship internationally, and maybe he can find that difficult to find part for our friend from Germany and send it to them before he goes out of business down in Gridley, Illinois. Yeah. So, anyway, thanks to Ginny from, I believe, Ohio, our ambassador to Needles, for typing in Guy's information. Otherwise, it was kind of visible on the screen. And yeah. So this box now, and I should mention real quick, this box, there's Susie again. Hey, this box came from Candido and Rachel out in New York, and I should protect their privacy before I get too far ahead of myself. And Susie can maybe turn around and grab those red scissors. They're right behind you on the shelf over here. Oh, I was going to go with the super sharp ones, but I can probably work with these. These are okay. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, those are the really go-getter ones. Susie's in a real awkward position right now on her knees, so I should probably turn on music so she can dance while she's hold on a second. Let me turn on some music. We'll give her the ability to dance while she's on her knees here. All right. So we're going to open this box now from Candido and Rachel. And I should mention that this coming Tuesday, I'm going to be doing another unboxing of a machine that I ordered on behalf of hold on a second, I almost got it. Sibel, I pronounced her name Sybil, from New York, from the same state as Rachel and Candido, the box that we're opening from New York. Sibel is also from New York. And remember, she ordered through eBay that Singer 404, the straight stitch slat machine. And it arrived packed horribly and it had so much messed up on it that I did a little search and I got Sibel's permission to order a backup machine that will either serve as a parts machine or an alternate machine for her, another Singer 404. We're going to be unboxing the one that I ordered this Tuesday morning, if you want to check that out, okay? This Tuesday morning. But right now we're going to open this and see what Rachel and Candido sent from New York. So, yeah. I hope it's eatable and edible. I do. I'm not so good with these scissors. I think Susie's better with them than I am, but I'm going to do my best. I just don't want to cut too deep in this thing and damage whatever's inside. I'm going to put these back on so I don't slice my hand open. Goodie bags. I can see goodie bags. Let me angle the camera down a little bit. I see goodie bags, and one of them says, Dear Scott. This one says, Dear Susie. But the box is addressed to Scott. Don't I get both bags? Can I get both bags? I see Candido and Rachel going like this right now at me. So I'm going to give up the one bag that says to Susie. And if Susie decides she wants to share what's in the note, she can do that. And I'm going to grab my bag and move the box. And check out these bags as I run over I'm just totally killing my Joanne's receipt. I hope I don't need it. So I'm going to look at my note. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they are. Ha-ha. They're the chocolate pretzels. You remember in my old workshop that Candido and Rachel mailed some of these to me, and now they made a double batch of pretzels and cookies with some sort of a fancy chocolate on them and a beautiful note. Oh, wow. You ought to see in this bag, y'all. I mean, the bag is packed with these goodies. Absolutely packed with these New York delicacies made in Candido and Rachel's kitchen. You know what? It pays to be Scott and Susie today. Yeah, it does. It pays to be Scott and Susie today. So I'm going to read my note. I don't think it's too personal. Maybe it is. Dear Scott, you can see Candido's cool stationary name on top of there. Maybe if the camera says, yeah, I'll be nice. I'll focus on it. Candido Rivera, Rachel, dearest Scott, we thank you for your friendship and prayers. We enjoy watching you and participating in sharing your knowledge with the world. God bless you. Love, Candido and Rachel. Made with, here it is. Made with Ghirardelli or Ghirardelli chocolate. I know if I'm saying that wrong, I don't want to get a nasty note from Ghirardelli or Ghirardelli or whatever they're called. But look at the beautiful writing as well by Candido. Isn't that something? Proud American. So while Susie is potentially sharing hers, I got to try some of this right now. I cannot wait. I can't wait. Do you want to share your notes, Susie, or not?
Sure.
You need glasses or you got your specs?
It's written big enough, I think I can read it.
Okay.
This note comes from Mrs. Rachel Rivera. It says, Dear Susie, we thank you for sharing your friendship, prayers, and all of your handmade gifts. Such a joy. Thank you. God bless you, Rachel and Candido.
You said that kind of softly. I hope you could hear Susie. I hope you could hear what she was reading. Oh, wow. Wow. This is really, I am not going to apologize for enjoying these and not sharing them because they are crazy, crazy good. Wow. All right. Maybe, maybe Candido and Rachel will decide to mail more of these, and I can divvy them up and send them out to some of the leaders. Maybe. I don't know. I think it'd be too much of a burden. I think you can only mail one batch, but
These are so good. Thank you, Rachel and Candido.
these are fabulous. And I didn't eat much breakfast today, so I'm considering Ghirardelli chocolate and pretzels to be the breakfast of champions. Yes, I am. Very, very good. Wow. Can I help you up?
Yes, please.
Susie is a devoted soldier. She's like, yeah, I will kneel to help the live stream. Thank you, dear. That was awesome. So amazing, amazing pretzels. Thank you, Candido and Rachel, again. This is the second time they've done this, and this time because I'm in this temporary workshop that Susie is hosting for me, they also made a special bag for her as well. And yes, I have enough to share with the class, but you would have to take really, really small bites, very, very small bites. Wow. Amazing. Okay, so I think I accomplished everything I set out to do in this live stream. Again, I want to thank the owner, Joan, her husband Steve as well, for supporting bringing this machine back to greatness again. After 45 years of devoted service, it was struggling. And now it's just sewing up a storm, as you've seen in the sew-offs that we've done. And who knows, maybe I'll end with a little bit of fun music. It's got to be Japanese music, though, doesn't it? It's got to be Japanese music to honor the Japanese people that with so much passion and creativity and devotion created this wonderful machine. So I'd love to end with ragtime because I love ragtime, but we've got to end with some Japanese music to honor the roots of this machine. Even though the motor was made in the US, it's a Japanese machine, isn't it? So we'll end the live stream in about 2 minutes and 31 seconds with the ending music being Japanese music. Yeah. All right. God bless everybody. Thanks to the leadership team for taking care of the family. Thank you to all you that took busy time out of your Saturday to join us. Our audience is always as it should be. Sometimes we have hundreds. Sometimes we have a smaller, more intimate family gathering as we would in our own home. Because I wouldn't want to try to fit 500 people into any home. I think it's too much. So I appreciate all that took their valuable time to join us today. I want to thank again Joan and Steve, the owners of this machine. I also want to thank Katie as well for joining the live stream, and also acknowledge totally blanking Danielle, the goddaughter as well, for joining us also, and for Susie sacrificing her knees to come down here and to open this special package from Candido and Rachel. So try to join us on Tuesday if you want to see this other Singer 404. I'm going to tell you outright right away what machine it is. It's for Sibel out of New York, and we're hoping that it's going to be a better option than the one that she got from the eBay seller out of New Jersey. Yeah. The screen just did something weird. I hope that we're not going blank here, but we'll try to end with some Japanese music. Oops, that was polka music. That was wrong. Let's go back. Japanese music. 6 layers of denim. 6 layers of denim, just like a hiccup. So again, thanks for joining. Hope to see you Tuesday. You want to believe in Schmetz needles? All of this on one needle. Credible machine, credible needle. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity of every machine that comes to the workshop, but especially one that was destined for the junk pile, one that would have ended up crushed, broken, destroyed forever. And because Joan paid attention, because she noticed, she was able to rescue this machine from sheer destruction, and now has been celebrating it for 45 years. And after Workshop Magic, we'll be able to enjoy it for another 45 years, plus do a really cool project with her daughter, Katie, to make some really nice bench cushions for that new sailboat. But let me see if I can rotate this machine. Y'all can wrap up your conversations. Do my best. I'm kind of tight on space here. Never enough space, is there? Turn this beautiful machine so you can enjoy looking at it one last time before we wrap up this live stream, along with this huge pile of sew-offs, many of which we did in this live stream today to celebrate the greatness of this Japanese universal machine. God bless everybody. Hope to see you Tuesday. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.